Hey there, folks. Welcome back to another one of our Spaces on X that we decided to upload. We split the last show with Smokey. Would have released it this week, but being as election night, we wanted to get on and have a little bit of fun. If you still haven't tuned in to one of our Spaces on X, go ahead and get your next account. Give us a follow at Get On Tap or at Being Libertarian with Chip. He usually hosts it for us because it reaches a little bit brighter of an audience. And come tune in. It's an opportunity to ask questions. You can jump on almost kind of like a radio call-in show. Very interactive and a lot of fun. And it's an easy opportunity to put out a show and put out some content, give y'all something to listen to with quite a bit different perspectives, more than we normally get on a show. Because, you know, might get 12, 13, 14 different people coming in and commenting, and it's a lot of fun. So I encourage everybody to go out there and get you an X account and come tune in and listen. We do them periodically, nothing set in stone. It's been really nice having this during our little hiatus here while Simon continues to recover, and I try and recover from a third child. I'm not sure who's more depleted and exhausted right now. I'm going to give Simon the nod, but I'm a close second. So thank you for tuning in. If you want to hear the rest of the show with Smokey, it'll be out next week, but you can also go to patreon.com/getontap, and just for $10 a day minimum, you can support us. You can support this Appalachia movement we're doing, and you can get that show in its entirety and other shows that we have. If we drop them a little bit early, we have after shows once we get back in the studio and start producing them again. A lot of cool things on the horizon. We got a lot of big plans. It's not just about a podcast anymore. It seems like over the past couple of months, we've kind of turned into the official voice of Appalachia. Nobody else out there quite speaks like we do on the matter, and we appreciate that, and we're taking that very seriously. So a lot of plans, not just podcasting anymore. We've got plans to make sure things that happen in Western North Carolina don't happen again. We've got plans to, help small businesses and improve things, and we need y'all's support for that as well. So patreon.com/getontap, only $3 a month minimum. You can always give more, and once we start getting more subscribers in there, might have more tiers. But a lot of our subscribers, you have an opportunity to come hang out when we do shows, big events coming up. We've been on the horn with some really cool people that we're going to try and get to Franklin County and hang out for 2 or 3 days. It's going to benefit everybody. So please go over there and do that. And also, if you want to become a subscriber on X, same deal, $3 a month. Do it for Dale. It gets you eventually, once we get enough subscribers over there, we're going to do subscriber only spaces and, get subscriber only posts and things of that nature. You'll also be invited to come hang out at some of our big shows, our big events, our big parties and stuff. Feel free, be like our buddy Nick and subscribe on both if you like to. It'll double your opportunities to come hang out. Look, we enjoy what we do. We enjoy having a good time. And if you've ever hung around with us, you can understand that. So we thank you all for tuning in. We thank y'all for sticking around. And for all the people that are new, go find us on Facebook, Instagram. We just got a TikTok, so go find us there at Get On Tap. We're trying to build that up. And once we go video here in the very near future, we'll have clips over there. Of course, we'll put them on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere we can. So that's patreon.com/getontap to become a subscriber, or you can go to our X account and do it from there. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you much. We'll see you next time.
I don't know about Simon, but I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Nice to hear you, Matt.
Yeah, you too. Is that Simon wearing a red coat in this picture?
I think that's the red coat he actually keeps in the cabin. It may be the one he wore to get his American citizenship.
Ah, it's awesome. The red coats. I love it.
Man, I was stoked to hear about your offer to take a shot every time you hear something specific about Kamala tonight.
Yeah, I already pre-gamed a little bit, so I'm ready. I am ready to go. It's going to cost me a lot of fucking money tonight.
It'll be worth it going down though.
Yeah, it'll keep me warm. Keep me nice and warm tonight. Dude, I haven't even looked at the map. I don't know if like I'm looking on Twitter. It seems like I could get updates on Twitter knowing how political Musk is, but I'm not seeing jack shit.
Yeah, I'm having to watch network TV or cable TV rather to get some actual numbers. I'm seeing now are Trump 105 to Harris 72. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
I don't even have regular network TV. I own an antenna. It's all through the internet.
That's the better way to do it long term anyway.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention all day. I just kind of looked down and said where he was projected to win Florida, Missouri, and Tennessee. But other than that, I have no earthly idea. I was kind of holding off till I got in here so we could all kind of talk about it and get updated live.
I have to say, I saw Trump talking about Joe Rogan endorsing him. Yeah, he's great. Really appreciate his endorsement. I just want to say, I endorsed Trump. Didn't hear a damn word. Not even a thank you from him.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. You won't forget that anytime soon.
Yeah, I actually did a video today, the first time I've ever done anything like that, giving him an endorsement and nothing. We also invited him to come on the show while he was in Salem this week, hop, skip, and a jump down the road. Really needed to address Appalachia. We've been ignored for far too long. And considering what's been going on down in Western North Carolina, I think it was a golden opportunity for him to come on the show and give us peace of mind. You know, I sent a message to his campaign. I said, look, you're going to be in the area. Come on the show. I know we're not huge, but we're tied in with being libertarian, so we do have an audience. And you can be the guy. I played on his ego. I said, he can be the guy that takes us to the next level. Look, I know you've been on Rogan and Theo Vaughn and all these big shows. Those are gimmies. You come in, and that way you can come in and say, I made those guys. I came on their show. It was terrific. The Appalachian podcast. It's all about me now. I mean, I just anything, but never got a snippet back. So
I've missed having the show with you in person to get that impersonation out of you after about an hour or two or so.
it's coming soon. It's coming soon. I think I'm gonna take this Spaces tonight and upload it tomorrow for our show. And next week we might do a show, but we still got the second half of the show with Smokey to release, which that was a phenomenal show. We had a blast with that one, and very relevant. If anybody's listening and haven't went back and listened to it yet, we recorded it pre-Helene. We were just kind of hypothesizing about what a free Appalachia would look like. We were kind of going over, which cities we might incorporate, what the geography would look like, things to that nature. And it seems to be a lot more important now after the fact. So maybe we get back together and kind of do a recap of that in a week or two.
Yeah, that sounds good. I wonder where Simon went. We saw him here a little bit ago.
That was me by accident because I created Simon's account quite some time ago, and I guess when the link popped up, it switched me over to his profile. That's why I was like, I can't see myself in here at all. So yeah, kind of trying to help him walk through the X thing, and he's still on the training wheels. So I'm about to send him a message to make sure they're good.
What does he have in his DMs?
I don't know. I haven't actually looked. I don't think anything special.
I bet you it's a bunch of dick pics.
Yeah, it'd be worth looking. Probably little dick pics with red coats on them.
Yeah. Like, be a dick with a Boston tea bag on it instead of a manly tea bag. Dude, like, honestly, if you're running like his X account, you should message some like prostitutes on here just so they message him every little bit. Like, hook them up with message some gay guys, delete the message and let them send shit back like they're opening up the conversation.
God damn, Matt, you say this like you've done this very accurately before.
How do you think I got all my followers? I do it for myself.
That's classic. All right,
Chip,
so
are you still bouncing out to do your interview, or what's going on with that?
yeah, I'll have to do that in about 3 minutes. I'm trying to stay as long as I possibly can, and I won't be gone long. I'm supposed to be gone about 30 minutes, but I may be a little shorter than that. But y'all carry it on, and I'll be back, and I'll be keeping it going and checking on it for any technical issues. But it sounds like it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, so far so good. I just wonder where the rest of the slack jaws are. I mean, we only gave them a 7-day notice, and and gave them a heads up on what time today and sent them the link multiple times. So,
well, you know what'll happen? They'll start trickling, and that's what they normally do. And I know we've got some other folks pulled up as speakers. Chaotic Good, how are you doing?
Hey guys, how are y'all?
we're excellent. We were actually trying to get one of your guys on here tonight to jump on with Spike, but Spike's feeling a little bit under the weather. And I don't know if he got in touch with Brent, I believe his name is, with Liberty Coalition for Emergency Relief. But
Yes, sir.
since you're here, though, maybe we can, when we get rolling in here, we can talk to you a bit about what's going on and what y'all are all about and that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, anything that you guys have questions about with Elser, yeah, I'm 100% qualified. Is that the right word, qualified? No, I mean, I talk to Brent almost every day. So I've been with Liberty Coalition for Emergency Relief since inception, back during Hurricane Harvey. And so, yeah, any questions you guys have, I'm happy to be here.
Well, Chaotic also has some cool products that are coming up. I don't know if you guys have seen these. I can't wait to let her tell you about that because I'll let her tell you later.
All right,
They're doing good stuff.
I'm gonna hop off, guys. Y'all keep going. I added Gary Baumgartner as a speaker. We'll see if he accepts. He used to be with Being Libertarian. He is currently a pilot, has a solid following on social media, but does really cool videos showing the ins and outs of the airline industry. So I'll see y'all back in a few minutes.
Excellent. We're going to give that 2 more minutes real quick to see if the rest of these slack jaws who are part of our team actually show up, or send me a message back or anything. But if you're wanting to jump in and speak, just raise your hand and ask, and we'll try and get you in here, and we'll have a talk about it.
I just need a couple extra minutes also.
10-4.
I just can't wait to hear people's.
Say that again.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I hit mute or not.
I think that's
I just can't wait to hear everybody's political views. I love trashing people's political views on every instance. Like, Chaotic, did you vote today?
I think she needed a couple of minutes there. Just got word from Smokey. He's not going to be making it in here tonight, unfortunately, but I am looking for Simon.
Spike wants to stop being under the weather. I know a good machine he could get. Just kind of keep him healthy.
I almost mentioned that to him tonight. I actually talked with him last week and said I really need to get y'all two together. Y'all two are definitely unique minds, and I think would go back and forth very nicely. And not to mention that I think the machine would help him out quite a bit.
Yeah, if he's running sick a lot, I mean, it's just helpful to everybody. Did you vote today, Billy? Did you get out and do it?
I sure did. You didn't see my long video I posted earlier today talking about voting for Trump for the first time?
Oh, that is right. Yeah, I did. I did see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I voted Libertarian the last go round, and we've been more than happy to campaign for Spike had he ran. And I actually really like Mike Tremont quite a bit. He's a heck of a guy. He's come to the house a couple of times. He's been on the show multiple times. I think he's a brilliant mind. He's a former White House economist. Not a bad candidate at all, but I kind of had to hold my nose the last time and vote for Jorgensen, and I absolutely could not vote for Chase Oliver, which I'm at this point in time not entirely convinced that Chase Oliver wasn't just put there to only usurp votes from Kamala and send all of the base libertarians into the Trump camp, because I really can't fathom any other reason why he got the nomination. It did nothing. I'm pretty sure he got an invite to go on Timcast, and I'm like, that's one of the biggest platforms you can go on to talk about your campaign, and he turned them down. I don't know what the hell he was doing or if he was even trying. I haven't seen anything out of him.
I would like to hear that there was some kind of intelligent decision behind Chase being nominated, because if not, it's just plain retardation. Because I guarantee is probably out there transing people's kids instead of going and seeing Temple. It's just, I don't get it, dude. Who voted for Chase? I don't think anybody did. And in fact, Toad, like from Tower Gang Podcast, he's a better candidate than Chase Oliver. He doesn't want to cut kids' dicks off.
If I had known the Libertarian Party was so hard up, I would have run.
Dude, the Libertarian Party, it's like a special type of autism. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of a person. nobody hates a libertarian more than another libertarian. And it's, on one hand, it's it's a good party for thought exercises and really testing your wit. But on the other, you can't get anywhere because everybody wants to be an individual and nobody can ever come together and say, all right, look, this is what's most important. We need to all go steadfast for this one issue. You can't even get that done. And that's why it's so very difficult. But the biggest hope for a third party, in my opinion, has been Trump the past couple of years. Because, I think he, like many others, used the Republican Party as a vessel. We've seen Ron Paul do it, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire sends quite a few of their people into the Republican or the GOP for the reasons of getting elected, because you get the money, you get the support, but you get your ideas in there. And I'm not necessarily saying Trump is a libertarian. He's far from it. But third party, I think so.
So Trump kind of did make a third party. I mean, you got Tulsi Gabbard, you got RFK, you got Musk. I mean, you have all these people, like even Ron Paul, all these people coming together. And now it is kind of forming a third party, a MAGA party.
It really is, and it's kind of something wild to watch. I never expected to see this kind of coalition. And the Democrats are always good about getting all these celebrities and stuff, but let's be honest, if the majority of the big names that are supporting you have significant ties to Jeffrey Epstein and now P. Diddy, then what are they really endorsing? Because they're not very smart people. I mean, Taylor Swift is going to tell her millions of fans, go vote for the person who raised your cost of living up by 25%. I mean, it's easy for her to say she's a billionaire. It doesn't matter to her. I mean, she jumps in her private jet to go get Starbucks, but it's just kind of a slap in the face. I mean, whether you like Trump or not, that's not the question. I think this election was a referendum on decency. Not saying Trump's the most decent person in the world, but for the love of God, what's happened in this country in the past 4 years is unfathomable. I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, I mean, I guess to get a celebrity endorsement, the only thing I do is have a video of them fucking kids, and then they'll endorse you too. But the left is always just odd, man. They always have. The right's been odd. And I talk about this all the time that, the Overton window has shifted. It's the right that drinks raw milk now, and they're into some hippie shit. Like the right loves me and frequencies for some reason, and I never thought that that'd be possible. There was always war, like neocons, and like give me drugs, and now they're like, oh yeah, frequencies, and I get it. I just don't understand why the right likes me and the left is like, well, you don't support Big Pharma enough.
Yeah, I think that's been the wildest part of everything is I always was, when I would think back, they always said that the parties would change, and the Democrats love to use it. I mean, for them, the party changed during the Civil War, then it changed again during the Great Depression and FDR's term, then it changed again during civil rights and all this kind of stuff. But we're really seeing in real time right now a complete and total shift where people on the right are the rebels. They're the ones that believe in everything that the left used to, for the most part, as far as free speech and anti of big pharma. And it's the brainwashing is maddening to watch. I really, it's so hard to wrap my head around.
Well, it's like they say, like between the ages of 18 and 40, you're Democrat, and from 40 on, you're Republican. And, if you haven't been Democrat, then you have no heart. And if you haven't been Republican, you have no brain. And honestly, it's just Democrats turning Republican because of the Overton window. But then the only thing I don't get, you got these 60-year-old women right now who's been Democrat all their life, and they've had the same views as Republican, then Democrat, then Republican, and like they're warmongers now. And I just think, do they really have a brain in their head? Because they just go whichever the way the wind blows. Even though the Overton window shifts, maybe they feel like they're leading a charge. I don't know, but they change so fucking much. Like I grew up on Captain Planet. I like the Earth and a little bit of diversity. Not, I don't really care about diversity. Fuck that. But no, like it took all the kids to make Captain Planet, even the Asian one. He backed it up somehow. And
Why you gotta say it like that, man?
I'm just saying, Asian persuasion ain't bad for somebody. But I'm right wing. I'm not even political. I hate all politics. I think it's all retarded. But if we got to choose one, I don't know. But either way, who are these people that just keep on changing their minds every 4 years when a new president comes up?
I'd like to add a couple thoughts, if that's all right. Appreciate Chip bringing me in here. I joined Being Libertarian back in 2016 when I started making videos, basically for like the libertarian cause. And I just think that how far this shift, kind of Matthew, to go what you're saying is, to think that like I made a video in 2016 saying how Hillary and Trump were so terrible, vote for Gary Johnson. And 8 years later to watch the shift to me is actually truly unbelievable, to think to the spot where I'd get where the other side is so bad that the preferable, I mean, I was always that person. There's the lesser two evils, still evil, I'm not going to do it. And at the end of the day, I still have come to the point where I'm like, you know what, if I have to choose between some chains, I'm going to pick the longer chains that gives me a little bit more freedom. And it's just such an obvious choice at this point. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm in London, a little bit jet lagged. It's like 2 a.m. here, but that's my initial thoughts.
Why are you American in London on election day?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to work. I'm over here on a trip, so don't worry. I'm a Florida resident, and Florida already got called for Trump, I think, so we're good to go.
Oh yeah, I think Florida's going to be red. I don't know. There's a lot of Democrats in Florida, especially the kids. I noticed that living down in Alabama when I used to go over there. Like there's a
Well,
lot of Democrat kids.
I'm in Broward County. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh
but
God, yeah, always on the news.
Yeah, well, it's one of the biggest flips they've ever seen because normally it's a heavy blue, and I mean I've been kind of on the ground there, ear to the ground, and seeing what's going on there, and it is a complete shift. Like it's everybody's Trump. It's and that's a guaranteed blue county.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, Broward County is where all of the school shooters come from, it seems. Now, there was a guy who he had like Trump stickers all over his van and stuff, and I guess he was planning to shoot the president. I don't know. Broward County seems to always be in the news that there's a bunch of crazies that come out of there. So, are you there to blow up London?
No, and I'm just as Chip was saying, I'm an airline pilot. That's my day job. So I'm over. I fly the 777. So I was over here on a trip, and that's it. So I just come out over here from work from time to time.
Oh, very nice. Hey, how do you feel about Boeing? Has that been bothering you, like seeing their stuff just fall apart?
I have mixed feelings on that. It's, as a libertarian, I actually did a video on this on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, I just started recently, actually. I'm up to like 19,000 subscribers. I just decided to put effort into that. But, Boeing is a perfect example of like the libertarian kind of like the cause and effect of like the invisible hand. And in one hand, the media, it's overblown in a sense, just by like, anytime there's an incident, it gets a spotlight. But on the other hand, if you look at the source of the money and the incentive when it comes to Boeing, I mean, think about this. Boeing's headquarters is now in Washington, D.C. And why is that? It's because all the defense contractors, the military industrial complex, all the money is coming from Washington, D.C. So they literally move their headquarters because it's like, I said this in my video. I said, who's your daddy? It's the government. And so when all your money comes from the government contracts, that in any libertarian will know that government payments is not going to be an efficient way to deliver on products and service. Making airplanes is a side effect of your business, because it's like, why would you put in effort when not only the government's giving you direct.
I can't hear anything if anybody can hear me. I don't know if it cut out. Oh, there it is. It's back.
I lost him too.
Okay, I thought it was just me because I have Starlink and it doesn't really work the best. Gary, we lost you for a moment. I guess London doesn't really keep up on their Wi-Fi bill.
Yeah, sometimes if that happens and we can't hear you, just log out and come back in. We'll re-add you as a speaker, because this happens quite a bit. There'll be times where Chip as a host can't hear me as a co-host, so I'll have to jump off and come back. Yeah, there's Chaotic. Looks like she's back in.
Yeah, she probably thought that it was her connection too and left.
Oh my goodness, I left and then came back in because I thought it was me.
It was, and we're going to blame you for the rest of the night for breaking.
That's all right.
And I don't think for whatever reason, I don't think X has quite worked out the bugs in spaces yet. And we have these issues quite a bit. It drove me crazy. That's why I got to the point to where I started letting Chip host because I thought it was something wrong with me or something wrong with my connection. And now we started to figure out that if you can't be heard, then you need to just jump off and come back in because for whatever reason, we have these issues time and time again.
That's why
Well,
I'm like programmed. I leave and come back in as soon as there's a long enough period of silence somewhere. I'm like, is it me? Is it you? What is? I just leave.
Billy, aren't you on Starlink like I am?
Negative. I'm on just regular old local cable internet or whatever.
Hardwired.
I'm on FiOS. I should never have a problem.
I'm on Starlink. I shouldn't have a problem either. But Starlink has this thing to where you're connected for like half an hour and it'll drop for like 1 to 2 minutes. And then it'll pick back up. I cannot do video calls. I cannot Zoom call for business from my house. I can't do any of this crap.
We need to file a complaint.
With who? The owner of X? He's going to be like,
yes.
Man,
He's
would
on
you like,
here enough. Just tag him in it.
if you get a Neuralink, you can get a Neuralink and it'll up your Wi-Fi data. I don't want to do that crap.
Some leg, Rife. Come on now. Hike your skirt up, man. Come on, flash some leg.
You know, it's not funny. You know, I lost both my legs, and that's rude. Like, they're good-looking prosthetics, but that's rude as fuck.
Get out there on the side of the road, man. We hitchhiking. You're the pretty one of the two of us. Come on, man. It's up to you.
I'm a scientist.
It doesn't matter.
I can run experiment. No, I can't. That's ridiculous. Calling me a prostitute.
You said it, not me. I said you're prettier.
Like, I have to agree there. I am pretty beautiful. No, I'm just joking.
I'm just saying, you got nicer pants than I do. Get out there and flag Papa Musk down on this.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up here with the election. I think Stu's going to come on here in 20 minutes or so. I've got some questions I want to ask him. I want to get into North Carolina a little bit whenever he comes on here and talk about kind of what y'all are doing down there as well. It does appear that Trump is going to win West Virginia. I don't know if that comes as a shock to anybody, but
not so much. No, I mean that's all of that's great news. No, just let me know when y'all are ready for me to. Let me get my notebook here because I've been taking notes all for the last couple weeks.
Absolutely. And Chip should be back in here in 12, 15 minutes or so. I guess he thought that it was between 7:15 and 7:45. He had to do an interview with some radio station in Missouri. I don't know how that happened, but I guess he mixed up Central Time and Eastern Time. And speaking of time, I don't know if anybody else has been affected all week long by daylight savings, but I'm about sick and tired of that. Can we just end the charade and keep a time all year at this point? I mean, what are we doing? What are we talking about here?
Billy,
I like the rolling back part.
How do you guys feel on prostitution? Do you think that should be legalized or not?
We're not subscribing to your OnlyFans, Matt.
Damn it.
That's one of those things where, kind of how my thought process on it's kind of like Ron Paul on abortion. It should be so frowned upon that nobody does it. The legalities of it, I don't know. I mean, my libertarian values would say, yes, you should be able to do what you want to with your own body. But you get into it's such a deep topic because that's so surface level when you say, oh, you should be able to do what you want to do with your own body. But we obviously know now that that's not really the case. That so many people out here are in prostitution because they're part of sex ring organizations and trafficking and things to that nature. And I think that legalizing it just sends that down a much more slippery slope. And it becomes more of a product to where more and more people get kidnapped or more and more people, fall into it out of desperation. I don't see how it's such a massive industry right now. Who the hell has the money to pay this stuff? Like, who the hell has money to pay OnlyFans? And these people, I mean, there's a woman out there, for God's sake, she makes like $50,000 a month selling farts in a jar. I think I'm going to go and create some AI chick, create my own profile and just fart in a jar and send it. Because, I mean, where do people have the money for this? Like, I can't barely afford groceries. I have a good job. My wife has a good job. I make a little bit of money off X every month. I make some money off subscriptions, and it's tough. Like, we're barely getting by. I mean, we've got a roof over our heads and everything's, kosher there, but where do people have the money to spend to be giving all these OnlyFans all this kind of money? It's mind-boggling.
That was just a goofy question I asked because I like to ask it. But dude, that's some deep stuff. I never thought about it like that. Like the criminality of it and how it kind of just normalizes it. Now I'm interested.
Well,
Not like
I'd
in
like to take
legalizing it.
a stab at that, no pun intended.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Yeah, my main thing is, as I mentioned, you got to like separate things from a moral standpoint and a family values, and then a government and a law like restriction. So my thing is, like, how can something be illegal to sell that it's free to give away, right? Like, you can be a huge slut and that's totally fine, but then suddenly you want to charge for it, and then that's a problem. And somebody a long time ago said the difference between flirting and sexual harassment is how attractive you are. And I only find that funny because, let's be real, somebody on the attractiveness on a scale, right? Like, let's say they're not very attractive, right? The ability to find sexual satisfaction, like, like getting, another partner and being intimate, right, is much harder the worse looking you are. So, let's say you happen to be born very good looking, right? It's much easier to attract somebody and, fulfill that need. And so my thought is, I just don't see, especially considering that, like, for example, in a lot of other countries where prostitution is completely legal and regulated, the trafficking is almost non-existent. But it's, if you're in a libertarian mindset, the demand, if you make something illegal, the demand is still going to be there, right? And so it's not to say you condone it, but at the same time, anytime, especially you see government wasting time on these sting operations for somebody that's maybe just lonely, or like you see like Robert Kraft, right, for the Patriots, where he gets arrested and this whole thing because he got a happy ending on a massage. Like, what an embarrassment. So I think that there's some gray area, right? Like, and I'm not to say this is like we shouldn't be encouraging family values and to find a partner and somebody you can be with, but it's important to keep it in perspective and see it from a big standpoint. And again, I always go back to that same, like the first point I made is that, like, how can it be illegal to charge for something that it's like legal to give away for free?
Well, I will say, I think that the reason it is illegal is because, well, in the beginning, because of Christian values, but anymore, I think it's because they don't know how to tax it. They can't regulate it and they can't tax it all. So a lot of it has to do with like prohibition of, or like the legalization of alcohol. During prohibition, people were still doing it, and then they figured out how to tax it. Same thing with marijuana. If they can create a structure to where they can tax it, then it become legal. I think, but I never thought about the other stuff like what Billy was talking about. Go ahead, jump in, Chaotic.
So, as a lady who frequently has to deal with this question, we have hit a point in time in the zeitgeist where any moderately or better attractive woman is assumed to have some sort of pay for content website, especially on social media. All those messages I get go right to my spam box. But you know what I mean? The problem that I have is not that I think it should be criminalized, is that I don't think it should be encouraged the way that it has been in the last 4 years, especially. I think that OnlyFans entered the zeitgeist at the exact right time during the pandemic, where we have a lot of people stuck at home, still needing to make money, not eligible for unemployment, and having their businesses destroyed, having to take care of children, all of these things. And I think OnlyFans entered the zeitgeist during a period of time where certain types of businesses were booming. And I feel like it was porn, Uber Eats, video games, all the things that you can do while you're inside and you can't leave the house and interact the way that you normally would with other people. And it's unfortunately monetized, like, I don't want to say prostitution because there's no physical contact, but it really is borderline prostitution. And my personal belief is that soon in the near future, all of these OnlyFans accounts will be replaced with AI women who are accounts run by men, because that's how things go.
Oh,
But
100%.
you know what I mean? Eventually, all
That's a
these accounts
given.
will be AI women run by men, because men know what men want, and that's really ultimately it's all fueled by money, because there are people paying for these things. There wouldn't be such demand if there weren't men willing to pay for this. But I feel like we're losing teachers and nurses to OnlyFans. And I think culturally, on a societal level, economic level, that is extremely problematic. And that's something new in the last 4 years. And I think we need to address that, and that we don't necessarily want to criminalize what's going on, but at the same time, we don't want to encourage this as an easy way out from working and being a productive member of society, because because really think about it like this. If you are an OnlyFans model at 18, you are forever unemployable in certain fields. You can't work with children. If you try to be a teacher, you're whatever, you always have to worry about somebody figuring out that you are, you see it in the news very frequently. Like I know somebody personally who lost their job as a middle school teacher because of that, and it's not that I disagree with that. I understand why. I don't I am very sad that we're at a place culturally and in every level where this is a more acceptable choice than being intellectual and being a productive member of society. Like, it's better to flash your asshole with a banana in it. You can make way more money. You can feed your kids. We're rewarding the wrong things. And I think we need to regroup and we need to rethink the types of behaviors we're rewarding like that. And this is one of the most problematic things I've seen come out of the last 4 years out of the pandemic, was the fact that like OnlyFans is suddenly part of the zeitgeist. And it's not that prostitution should be illegal, it's that it shouldn't be encouraged like this.
Well, there's a couple of things. So, yeah, I forget which one of you said, but a lot of women go into this for desperation. And I think this is a systemic issue from things of Hollywood that promote it, materialism and just purchasing of it's consumerism. So whenever people value money more than they do family, of course they're going to focus on money more than family. So we have issues that, they've broken up the nuclear family by sending women to work because, hey, you need to go and you need to, you know, be able to earn money because you're a strong, independent woman. So while you go make sandwiches at Subway, pay a woman to watch your kids to make sandwiches for them so that both of you can pay taxes. And that gets the focus put on money. And the more money people earn, there were good years during the 90s where people just started buying stuff all the time. And consumerism come about and materialism. People started losing focus of family. And during the pandemic, it was easy for people to stay home and make money by doing OnlyFans because it did come about. And there was another one besides Uber and like Uber Eats and OnlyFans, there was Boober Eats, to where a topless woman would deliver your food in Oregon. I think
How
it
many?
was a stripless club. It was a strip
Oh
club.
God.
Do you know about this? There was a strip club in Oregon to where the strippers were out of work, so they started delivering food topless.
It doesn't shock me, and I feel like that's going to end in some kind of public indecency charge, and that's probably why. Otherwise, it would be a million, billion, gajillion dollar industry, right?
I think they still have it, and it's Oregon. Like, people are becoming more sexualized than family oriented. I think it's a systemic issue. But whenever you can raise the income of teachers and raise the income of regular workers on regular jobs, then women don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go show myself nude. I can actually do something I want to do, and that is staying with family. Welcome back, Chip.
Good to be back, guys. The looks like some action going on with the results here. Trump 111, Harris 72. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I know you guys made a post here 20 minutes ago or so that Trump had a narrow 3,000 vote lead in Virginia. It's 49.2% to 49.1% right now.
I saw that. If he flips Virginia, man, it's going to change the whole thing. And I mean, he could do it. Youngkin won, so it's definitely doable.
Do we really do we really trust this shadow campaign, so to speak? I mean, we need it to be to the point to where there's no questions asked, and it's close right here. I mean, who knows at what point in time what might switch or happen. I'm not sure what the Virginia rules are right now, or if the polls close at 8, is it steadfast? Is this how it goes, or can they allow late ballots to come in tomorrow? All that kind of jazz.
I think they go a little later in Virginia, and some of these, like the northeastern counties, they go late because there's so many damn people. There's just lines, and so they usually go a little later. But we usually have results the night of in Virginia. I want to say at least by like 10:30 or something like that. So we should have it tonight.
Chip, what's up, man?
Gary, how are you doing? Good to hear from you, man. And neat that you're going to be a neighbor here soon.
Yeah, I know. It's 40 acres right by you. So I wasn't kidding, man. Let's build the Bean Libertarian compound. I'm ready to, we got to build a bunker no matter what happens.
Well, that's true. We'll have one in Patrick County. We'll have one in Franklin. We'll have a network set up when the Boogaloo finally does go down.
Yeah, you said you lived in Kreitz, or that was your office? That's where it was?
Yeah, my office is in that county, Patrick County there. But again, Patrick County is massive, and it's one of the larger physical counties in the state. So, but not that many people. I think we've got about 20,000 people in the whole county.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking for property in like northern North Carolina and then southern Virginia for the past year, and I knew a deal when I saw it, so I jumped on it, and 40 acres, and that's like I start building my little dream ranch. So that's cool that it's close by you. We're gonna definitely have to connect.
No, that's perfect. It's great to have this network.
Are you getting a mule with that 40 acres?
No, there's a couple sheds and like a barn for hay and a couple other things, but that's all it is now. And we're going to see what we're going to do with it. There's a nice little kind of like river stream running through it, but I want to turn it into maybe some type of wellness center, maybe a wedding venue, but also like ultimately just, some tiny houses and I hate to use the word compound, but I kind of like the term as a compound of a place to go if it all hits the fan for like-minded people to have a spot and just be prepared.
Where is it you said you bought land?
It's in Patrick County. It's Virginia. So it's basically if you go north, kind of Greensboro.
Oh, it's right next door to us. I was just curious what part of Patrick County.
Oh, okay. So I think it's called Kreitz, like Critz. Is that right? Did I pronounce that right?
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Kreitz is right behind Patrick Springs, Billy.
Isn't that the gayest county in Virginia? That's amazing.
Oh God, damn it! I didn't know that. Chip didn't tell me that.
Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate that.
They literally give land away there because nobody wants to move there.
What was that? What was that trigger that we needed for you to have to take a shot? Was it
Kamala's a cunt?
That's it.
Yeah.
Take a shot.
There we go.
I heard it. I mean, I didn't see any of that. I kind of met the neighbors and everybody seemed very normal and cool. And I saw a bunch of Trump signs. So I don't know. I missed some, Chip? I mean, you're from there.
He's full of shit, Gary.
Okay. I was like,
man,
I was like, you scare me.
No, the gayest county in Virginia is over near DC.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Floyd County. Floyd County is just north of Patrick County. It is very hippie-ish. It's pretty wild to go up there and be in such a remote area and see so many hippies and Chip could probably explain it a little bit better than I could. Beautiful town. I mean, it's very friendly and stuff. But if there was one mountain town you were going to go to where the masked Nazis a couple years ago were coming out in full force, it was Floyd.
Yeah, it's just up the mountain, and for all its warts, there are some great places to go there to eat, and they have an unbelievable music scene on Friday nights. I mean, the whole Main Street shuts down, and it's just people playing music all night. So they got some really cool stuff, despite all the hippies.
Chip, so I was like completely unaware that our Facebook page got completely sent down the memory hole. Can you tell me what do you know what the post was? Because I remember I posted something, I had kind of branched off on a personal page. I was getting about 100,000 impressions a month, and I posted something about the Kyle Rittenhouse. I simply just posted a picture of the guy with the gun pointing at him, and I got my Facebook just completely deleted for that. There was no challenge, anything like that. Do you know what your post was specifically that got you deleted?
Yes, it was a post about Hunter Biden, and it was from his laptop. It was just a couple of posts from his laptop, direct posts from his laptop, and they popped us for sexualized images and that kind of thing. So that's what did us in. They're not out of the woods yet. I'm trying to piggyback on this lawsuit that RFK Jr.'s filed against Meta for censoring him. And, hell, we lost a 1 million page, 1 million follower page. There's a shitload of value in that. And we lost it over complete bullshit over Hunter Biden. So I'm hopeful we can piggyback on their website, on their lawsuit, and actually get something done and get it reinstated.
Yeah, that would be good. Because we had quite the reach. I mean, I know they definitely throttled since then. Like, you didn't get the kind of reach we used to get like back in 2016, but that's pretty wild that they completely, that, because that was like the heart of being libertarian, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And that just reinforced that we needed to diversify and get on every platform we could. And that's what you see now. We have, the about 300,000 or over 300,000 on Instagram, over 250,000 here, I think, on X, and even our side pages on X and with or our Facebook and what we've put back there in the aggregate, we probably still have about 350,000 over there as well. So I've realized no matter what they do, they can't stop what we do, but it would be nice to have that page back.
Yeah, that was the beauty of pivoting to aviation content, as I kept pretty neutral, and you could instantly see the veil be lifted. Like, they don't care. Like, you're not throttled, you're not censored. You can post whatever you want. And like, suddenly I, grew my TikTok to 300,000. Like, my Instagram does well. Like, the only thing actually is not doing that well is Twitter. But then again, I just didn't post that much. But, my plan is to kind of build a coalition and slowly kind of, was it red pill or white pill, whatever one that is slowly kind of drop hints in there without being, too obvious.
Yeah. Now you have to be careful because like, you can't even have a YouTube page with certain content. They'll just exit out. It's just a different world right now.
What happened to Zuckerberg being kind of a libertarian? I don't guess that changed anything. I don't guess he retroactively went back through and said, well, let me find these libertarian pages that I've zucked and put them back in business. Nothing like that.
Oh, of course not. He hadn't done a thing since he mentioned that. Although him writing that letter, I got to give the man credit. Him writing that letter to at least say we fucked up is something I know his lawyers told him not to do, and he did it anyway. So that I will give him credit for that. I'll give him. He's going to get sued for that letter, and I know for a fact that letter is going to get brought up in lawsuits. I'm going to use it in my lawsuit.
I got demonetized for an entire year for saying the word boogaloo. I'm not even exaggerating. For saying the word boogaloo got me demonetized for an entire year.
I don't doubt that for a bit. We and being libertarian, when boogaloo came out, we had a rule that we couldn't use the word or use it, use the actual word in our memes because they would just get instantly fried.
That's exactly what happened. They allowed me into the monetization program, and then about 30 to 45 days in, they found a meme from 4 years ago where it was the right to bear arms, and it was grizzly bear with machine gun arms. Sorry, everybody. And it said Boogaloo side quest number whatever. That is what got me demonetized for a whole year.
Yeah, it's messed up. Just like them taking our 1 million follower page. They're ruthless and they're assholes. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I think
Chip, where are you getting, before we used to have a whole army of people that would do memes, but like, I'm just looking at your meme right now, the projected winner of Ukraine. I can't stop laughing. Where are you like getting these from someone else? Or are you making them yourself? Or do you still have like a couple people helping you out?
No, there's 3 of us now that run the whole thing, and probably 80 or 90% of our content is original content, but it's just, we perfectly are able to get out our and exercise our demons through the memes. So that's just what we do. And I realized keeping a smaller group is a lot easier. It's a lot easier to herd 3 cats than like 30. So.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I lost my page for an entire year. I lost my page essentially for an entire year to where, I had, at that time about 10,000 followers. We're up to about 33, 34 now, but it was just it was a local wine bar had made a post, and it was a couple of older people, probably in their mid 50s. And the local establishment said, congratulations to these two for getting engaged or something.
and I posted that meme of James Franco in the noose, saying first time, and it immediately, like within seconds, clicked it off, banned me, didn't give me a chance to do. I mean, I was like, it's a joke. I've seen this thing get posted 10,000 times, X'd me out, and for an entire year, I couldn't reach anybody. And that really pissed me off. That's why I don't really go back and mess with Facebook, because I was spending money on advertising over there, trying to build the page a little bit. Probably, spent a decent chunk with them. I'm like, y'all didn't even give me the opportunity. I mean, this is supposed to be a business. You didn't give me the opportunity to speak my case or look at the context or anything, that it was a joke. And I haven't spent a dime with them since. But yeah, it was supposed to be a year. I think it ended up being a year and 2 months, month and a half, something of that nature, when I finally got back to the point to where, I could make a post and more than 10 people would see it. But I just completely ignored it, and I really haven't paid much attention since. I've let Chip have the reins over there a bit. He posts from time to time. My wife posts from time to time over there, because I'm mostly spending my time on X now, because they're the ones that are, paying me decent money, and they're the ones that are putting my stuff out there. So,
Not
Well,
oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, not to interrupt, but it's like breaking news. Looks like they're calling Virginia for Kamala, even though it's only a 10K differential and it's 46% reporting. Like, that seems a little bit premature.
Well, I think the reason for that is the area that just went for Trump is Chesapeake. And I mean, that is one of the two Democrat strongholds in the state. I mean, the rest of the state is Trump. Every bit of it is, except for those like 2 or 3 hot spots. So if Chesapeake went for Trump, which I heard somebody just texted me that it did, I don't disagree with him. Virginia probably will go for him.
No, they're calling it for Kamala, though. They're not calling it for Trump.
Oh, that's odd then. Okay, because I just heard Chesapeake went for him.
Even so, the poly market right now, the latest update I'm looking at right now, is it's up to 72.3% for Trump right now. So, I mean, again, it's not something to be like, oh yeah, that's for sure, but it's kind of a good, and that's even with Virginia going to Kamala. But I think that's premature to call it for Kamala with like less than 50% with only a 10K differential. Like, that seems a little bit iffy to me.
Well, this is par for the course. They're just trying to pave the way for a narrative. I'm guessing at some point in time, this is kind of the mind tricks they do. It's really not going to matter because the polls are closed in Virginia, but for whatever they've got up their sleeve later. And I mean, let's talk about this for a minute. What changes if Trump wins? Do we expect anything? Do we expect another 2020 where they release some crazy virus, or pretend they release some crazy virus that locks down everybody? I mean, do they start World War III? I mean, is this just a break, or do we really change things? Does this really move the needle at all if Trump wins? Because it kind of seems like, if you've been paying attention, they've kind of been just throwing Kamala Harris away. Between Joe Biden going out there and pseudo endorsing Trump and all the gaffes, and picking Tim Walz, who's a complete maroon. But it almost seems like they're just throwing her to the wolves, going ahead and, wiping their hands of it and saying, okay, we're going to use Trump for the next 4 years to campaign off of, to fundraise off of, and it'll give a boost back to mainstream media again. Everybody's going to tune in to CNN and MSNBC. Without Trump in office, their ratings have just hit the shitter. So, I mean, are they just throwing it away and focusing their attention on maybe winning congressional and Senate seats? Because if we don't have the Congress and the Senate, it doesn't really matter, if Trump's in office or not.
I mean, that's a good point to bring up. I mean, I don't know what Chip thinks. My personal opinion is that 2016, when Trump won, was the first time that somebody had been in that seat that hadn't been controlled by the deep state. Now, that doesn't instantly mean Trump's, like the savior from Jesus, as a lot of people think. But the point is that it's not somebody that was under their control. And I think if anything that we've learned is just how desperate these people are with what they'll do. I've become, after 2020 and what I've seen, I've at this point, I won't even, there's no conspiracy theory that I won't entertain anymore. But, you bring up good points. I mean, I personally think it could be some type of like EMP attack, dirty bomb, some type of major, very significant, that could make like COVID and 9/11 look like child's play. But I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious to know what Chip thinks, but I do know these people are psychopaths, and that the grip on power, they'll do anything to keep that.
Yeah, and I've heard so much about what could happen, even if Trump were to win, about them not like maybe wanting to seat him or allowing him to be, which would just, I mean, I can't imagine what that would lead to in the country, which is, that's probably exactly what they would want at that point. But it's going to be interesting with these other races, especially if the Senate flips, which just about everybody is conceding is going to happen to Republican, because really they control all of the judicial appointments. And so even if Kamala were to win, if the Senate flips, she won't be able to jam in, or anybody she wants for judicial appointments and things like that. So no matter who wins, it's going to sort of depend on what happens in the other races as to how much they'll be able to get by with.
I mean, a little bit off topic, but the craziest thing is that 30 minutes ago, Trump was ahead in Virginia, and he was up at 49.55, and Kamala was 48.8. And the fact that they could call that, it just, I don't know, that seems premature. I'm not sure what you guys think, but it seems premature to me.
Yeah, I agree. As big a state as Virginia is, and with that small of an amount between them, that does seem premature. Texas Senate looks like Cruz is sort of up after 56%. So that's one the Republicans need to keep. Klobuchar won her seat. That's not surprising.
We should give a shout out to TJ Roberts. He got like he was part of being libertarian, wasn't he? But he looks like he won the local state representative in Kentucky. So that's pretty nice.
Oh, that is nice. I didn't see his results. That's great that he won. Yeah, TJ Roberts is good. He's been around for a long time and in Liberty circles. So that's great to hear. Kentucky got a good one there.
Yeah, they're making the right call. Like Thomas Massey got it. He got it. So that's good. Chip, did you ever get involved with Young Americans for Liberty? I mean, I remember I went there and interviewed Thomas Massey and a couple people when they came through Charlotte. But I think that was one of the better groups as far as like targeting all aspects of government and trying to, make effective change.
Yeah. Young Americans for Liberty is great. Students for Liberty is another one. We've done a little more with them recently, but yeah, we've been to several conferences throughout the years with Young Americans, and they've been involved just with the Liberty movement. But they have conferences every year, just like Students for Liberty has LibertyCon, which we've been to a few times. I think that's the one that a couple of years ago when Andrew Yang, if you remember when he was running for president, we got to interview him up there, and a couple others like Milton Friedman, or one of the Friedmans there, maybe David, the son. So we got to interview him, but got to interview some really cool people. But you're right, those conferences do still go on, and it's good for people to know that those are out there and happen, annually. I know the LibertyCon's coming up February 7th weekend, and we are definitely confirmed to be there for that. So that's one to put on the calendar. And I can just imagine in DC in February after this election, it's we have results by then, confirmed results by then. It's going to be a loud experience up there, I would bet.
That'd be great. I'd love to come up and check that out and get involved in something like that. I do have some bad news though. It looks like Kamala has won Illinois, so I know it's a shocker there.
Well, I'm glad for the updates. I'm glad y'all brought up LibertyCon. Matthew, that's one we were going to try and peg you to come up there and join us for if you got the opportunity. It's a hell of a time if you're still listening. We went last year, and of course, Simon dressed in his red coat. Amos dressed up like Abraham Lincoln, and the entire place just went wild for us because there's a bunch of international students coming in and trying to talk about liberty a bit. And you've got these Appalachians walking around just talking the most slack-jawed accent they could. He just blew them away. Had an absolute blast. We obviously had Spike on for a show, which we'll get him again this year. But I think David Friedman's coming back. He's a Virginia Tech graduate. Kane, Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of Knox County, he's going to be there. That's a big one, Chip. We need to get him. Maybe see if we can convince him to start taking some of his wrestling moves into politics and choke slamming people. That might really kind of set the tone for our future here in this country. And he said Daryl Davis is going to be there as well. That might be an interesting one. I think that'd be a good one to have him and Simon going back and forth on. If you know who Daryl Davis is, apparently he's the guy that's converted hundreds of Klan members over to, taking off their robes and being friends with them and things to that nature. So I'm really hoping to get Matthew to come up here with us and join us this year, bringing one hell of a team.
That's a good point. When I was with Chip at Being Libertarian, I got to interview Glenn Jacobs, and it was actually at that same y'all conference with Thomas Massey. So those are all good points. I want to bring up one other topic just to see, it's slightly off topic, but I want you to see like what your guys' opinion is on this. So I'm a Florida resident, and it looks like Amendment 3 got shot down, and that was the legalization of marijuana. I voted against it simply for the fact that there was no restrictions on smoking in public. And, I think I want to say Chip made that meme that one time where it says the libertarian leaving my body when I smell marijuana in public. Like, I'm all for it, but I don't like the fact that there was zero restrictions in Florida where you could just smoke it. And I'm going to be walking with my kids and smelling it down the street. Like, literally, that was my only difference, was like, if you had made it like illegal, or at least like keep it in out of the public, I probably would have voted for it. But the fact there was zero restrictions on smoking in public was my vote for no. But I'm curious what you guys think.
Is that usually written into law? Kind of like alcohol, you can't openly drink an alcohol, right? So I thought that was kind of like
No, it depends. So that's the problem with the language. So for example, I used to live in California. I've lived in Washington, California, and in like New York and some of these other places where it's legal, they have it in law, but it's in the law that says you can't smoke it in public. Unfortunately, these democratic states, they don't enforce it. So it's like, you smoke in public, nobody does shit about it. So you can smoke weed and nobody's going to do anything about it in public, but at least it's on the books, right? The Florida law, the Amendment 3, there's no language in there to prohibit smoking in public. So that, like literally I read through the whole bill, that there was going to be like, cops could come out. They couldn't even do anything if you're just smoking in public around kids and stuff like that. And that was the reason for it, is like they didn't have the language for it.
Yeah, screw that. I mean, keep it in your house. Hopefully they can change it. What do they have to wait? Like another year to vote on it?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's 2 years, to be honest, but like, I don't know why that was so hard. Like, add a part in there where, because, Florida police do not mess around. Like, they actually uphold their, and as a libertarian, that's weird saying that, but like comparatively, like where you go to California where they won't uphold some of the most basic things, like, well, they'll just watch you walk out of the store with $949 worth of merchandise and they won't do anything about it. Like in Florida, the cops will handle business when you're actually breaking the law. So, again, it's in like in a philosophy standpoint, like I'm not that against smoking weed, but especially, maybe in public, maybe it's not that bad, but like, I don't know. I just wasn't ready for it walking down the street with my kids and smelling it every 5 seconds.
Well, it just got called that Kamala won New York.
Well, it's over. We better pack it in.
Yes.
Yeah, fucked up. Look, we don't even need Illinois or New
That's
York,
right.
honestly.
We need to see what's going to happen in the rest of these swing states. What's Ohio looking like?
I don't think we've had New York or Illinois since '84. I think that was the last year.
I guess
I like their gun laws, though. Like, they're very strict on it, but everybody has them.
I guess just because it's still a new thing here in Virginia, I do kind of get annoyed at times as well.
That should be done. I wouldn't want to have kids out in public and have people smoking pot. I mean, I remember growing up and having the air fresh, or like the things you light on fire, incense. But I don't want that in public.
Were you speaking there?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Testing
Yeah,
one,
we
two.
got you too.
I think it's just because I'm in Virginia, and of course it's legal here now. I think it's just because it's such a new thing. It's kind of hard to get used to it. But I guess I kind of argue I'd rather my kid be inhaling marijuana smoke than nicotine smoke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you didn't really have a problem getting it when it was illegal. I don't think it was that big of a deal. Nobody really cared unless you were going down the road smoking in a car, or the cop just wanted to be an absolute dick. For the most part, it really wasn't an issue. So I don't really care either way. Like anything else, I think they'll take it and they'll ruin it. They'll tax it into oblivion or regulate it or get it to the point where some big corporation can get a hold of it, and then God knows what they'll start putting in it. You'll get carcinogens and chemicals and whatever else that they'll wrap up in the blunts and the joints that they'll smoke. I mean, for the longest time, I couldn't wait for it to become legal and couldn't wait for it. And I'm like, man, this would be great. But for me, it really doesn't help because of my job. I can't smoke anyway. But, even if I could, it's just, it's just not as exciting as I thought it would have been. I mean, it's good, but I don't know. I think eventually they're just going to get their claws into it and ruin it like they do everything else.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I don't know about you other guys in Virginia, but I've noticed, like, just here that there'll be pockets in certain areas where I'll smell weed just intensely out in public, and it's just certain areas and certain places I'll go, and cars will just be rolling with it now. Do y'all have that same experience since it's been legalized?
Well, you're talking about Martinsville, so I mean that was the case before it was legalized.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair and probably true.
Yeah, I smell it more often. I'll smell it going down the road in a car, and you can kind of tell the person in front of you is token because it's blowing out their window straight into your vents. Yeah, it's a whole lot more frequent than it used to be.
Yeah, and as I said, to kind of go back, that was literally my only difference. Had they made it illegal to smoke in public, then I would have been fine with it. But the fact that, like, public parks, beach, everywhere, like, I wasn't about it. So on an update, I mean, I think, has anybody said that Trump's got Ohio, that's an important one, but I think Pennsylvania is the next one.
Damn. Isn't JD Vance from Ohio?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a big one they needed, correct?
Yeah, I think,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think Trump said on the podcast, he was like, it's not even barely a swing state just because he had Vance and they're really ahead there. But I mean, really the next big one is to watch for is Pennsylvania, because that's the way the election goes, is Pennsylvania.
Yep. Pennsylvania is the key.
Well, a few years ago, some buddies of mine, they started this tradition to where they meet once every 4 years. And I guess if Kamala wins, I'd like to invite you guys to be somewhere with me on January the 6th. I don't know if you're free or not. I don't know if I'll go, but I'll send you guys the address.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think once I get this property and Chip comes down, we'll have to have a big gathering down at the property once I get it all set up.
Yeah, well,
hey, I'll build your security on that property if you want. I'll put Wi-Fi all over it, put some cancer sticks on it.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, it's got a lot to it, so I'm kind of excited of the different things. My main thing is maybe a ranch, a getaway spot, but if anything, it's kind of a spot to get away and be self-sufficient. So that's why, I mean, 40 acres was a nice size of land for the price.
So what I did on my property down in Kentucky, it was also 40 acres, and I put internet all over it by having my main internet. And then I went out and I put Wi-Fi repeaters out, hooked up to a battery that was ran off a solar panel. So all during the day, I could go all throughout the property and be connected to internet all over. Because I didn't have any cell phone signal there at all. If it wasn't for internet, there'd be no signal at all except for radio signal. But it's a good, cheap way to set up and be able to cover everything.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I want to go stash all my physical gold and silver up there, but like, I don't want to stash it without Wi-Fi and security. So I need to.
Oh, you don't want to do that. Listen, I have this house that you can drop it off in, and it'll be safe.
I don't know, Matthew. I just met you, but if Chip vouches for you, maybe I'll do it.
Chip, I'll split it. He says, "Yeah, I'm cool."
There it is. Yeah, no, you'll definitely want some security there. I've been involved with a few cases where people have come onto property up there and just, if not stolen shit, mess with shit. So you'll definitely want some cameras up there.
I wanted to kind of ask y'all for a minute as we look at the political landscape here. I'm just kind of curious on other people's opinions, because I've gotten into this argument with some rubes online here lately, and I think there's some truth to the notion that there are no such thing as blue states. There are only blue cities and red states. And I think the electoral map here in the past few years has really shown that. And I know everybody wants to say, well, every vote matters and every vote's important. But in reality, are 10,000 votes on a city block in New York more valuable than 100 votes in the middle of Kansas where 10 massive farms are being operated? Because at the end of the day, who's more important? Those 10 farms are going to get 100 votes, or those 10,000 votes you're going to usurp resources, and probably 75% of them don't have a job, don't work, don't contribute, don't pay taxes. I mean, at what point in time do we have to acknowledge that this isn't sustainable?
Well, that's the reason you have the electoral college, is because of that. But whenever you go into this about how much property is there versus people, I think that runs down the dangerous road, because that leads into companies like BlackRock having more of a vote because they own more property, they take up more area.
True. I don't think I considered that. It's just, it seems like something has to give to where it seems like work in America, the people who are contributing to the taxes, the people who are going to work every single day, are having to run neck and neck with cities that don't contribute, that don't produce. Because I mean, let's be honest, if we all went our separate ways and told New York and Chicago and LA and these places, all right, y'all become your own city states, how long do you think they would actually survive before completely collapsing? And I'm not saying they couldn't get food in here, but now they're counting on the people that they despise. And maybe we turn our backs on them and say fuck off. And now they got to go to China or another country to get their food. Well, those places now they have them, bent over a barrel, and they're at the mercy of them. And when you add in tariffs and you really can't get produce from China, that's going to go bad. So I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought exercise. I'm just curious of what people think about the economy there.
Well, that's what happened for the Civil War that we had. It wasn't about slavery. It was about the North did manufacturing and the South did textiles. And where the South wanted to pull away, the North said, hey, we won't have anything to manufacture unless it's, dealing with all these country regulations if these people pull out. So that's the reason they fought to keep them in, is because of that reasoning. But, there's something to be said about the progress of humanity, and whenever you want to bring tech about and everything else, that you want more people involved at the same time. So whenever you say, well, we don't need them and look how they'll fall, it's actually for your benefit that these people that are consumers are there. Because you don't, I mean, if you look back in the days of Little House on the Prairie, everybody had to build up their own land and their own farm and their own houses and their own outhouse and tend their own gardens. And it was taking up everybody's time to where you couldn't actually advance humanity on many different aspects. So the overall good would be for everybody to be involved, even though they're just consumers. I think they have a very important role to play.
That's actually a really good point. And I kind of want to piggyback off that, because I kind of had a question for Chip, or actually for anybody else that wants to answer. What is your guys' consensus as libertarians? We've kind of long accepted that the debt and the trajectory of this country is toast, and we're going to be in for a financial reckoning. Even let's say Trump wins tonight, what do you think there's actually enough change in there, right? And we obviously know he didn't drain the swamp in 2016 through 2020. Do you guys see a path where there's actually, this like Elon and Ron Paul cutting $2 trillion? I mean, I will admit this is the closest I've ever seen to an actual realistic view of like real cuts, real changes in the stuff that libertarians want. But if not, do you guys see a soft landing, so to speak, and a way out of this? Because let's say Trump wins tonight, are we kind of happy that we've, maybe dodged a bullet? But like, what happens after that?
I think he'll end the war in Ukraine and whatnot. But yeah, Netanyahu's hand is just too far up Trump's ass still.
Dude, listen, if Trump wins, we're going to have like economic failure. And even if he doesn't, we're going to have economic failure. For Musk to be able to cut out $2 trillion, I still think that there's going to be a setup, like somebody was asking earlier. It's kind of like a punishment to be able to elect Trump into office. Like, I think you was asking about it. Like, are they going to have another COVID? Are they going to have more of this? And I really think that they are, because this is abuse mechanism, to where whenever you have neurolinguistic programming of bad things happening, whenever you do bad things, but nobody told you it was bad. I forget exactly what it's called in psychology, but it's to where you always have to be checking what the punisher or the ones over you are doing, and you don't even know if what you did was good or bad. And I think that's what they're actually doing to the people, and I think that economic downfall is part of that.
Well, and I think right now it's a good question, Gary. And I think right now all it is hope. I mean, we're literally hoping right now. We're banking on the fact that, or the fact, not the fact, we're banking on the idea that Trump has learned from his first go round. I mean, that's what we're all voting for. So we'll have to see what actually happens with that if Elon Musk can get a hold of the government. I mean, the idea, the way I look at it, there has never ever been any cuts that I'm aware of, any real cuts to the government. And so if we even see part of that, I think that's better than where we were, and we can, sort of maybe piggyback off that, or at least the Trump folk, they'll be, leaning on Trump's legacy here. So it'll be on him to see if he actually follows through with this. If he does, that'll play in the next election. If he doesn't, that'll play too.
Chip, what was it that pushed you over the edge to actually support Trump? I mean, I have mine, and even then, support is a very loose term, but it's essentially, I've said, like, it's picking. I mean, I hate to say it as a libertarian, but I'm like, it's how I feel, is like picking, if I have to pick an STD, I'm going to pick the one that can be cured with antibiotics. Like, that's how I feel still. But I have way more hope that with RFK Jr., with some of the other people, Tulsi, the people he's teamed up with, I actually have, like you said, a little bit more hope. But I'm just curious your thoughts.
Well, I think it started with, just like you were talking about, this, when he started sort of putting a team together, and really when he started getting people like Vivek around him, who were, I mean, people can say whatever they want about Vivek. That man says the right thing a lot of the time. And, you're not used to hearing that. And so if Trump actually listens to those people, if he actually does these things, then, it could be significant. It could be great. But for me personally, the thing that got me at the end was censorship. It was clear. I mean, we went through it. We lived through the Biden administration censoring us through X or Twitter at the time, and trying to save our life, trying to stay afloat through that. And that is just, that's repugnant. That's something that, we've got to at least have some sort of field to fight on at the end of the day. And when you try to take my ability to fight you away, that tells me all I need to know about your politics. And even, like you say, if Trump is not our ideal situation, he's not that. And specifically, he has Elon, who I know for a fact, I see the checks. I know he is for our ability to say what we want to say. And so that, at the end of the day, is why we endorse Trump.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I've completely gone away from the whole. I mean, the argument right now that I see with a lot of libertarians, and I'm sure you've gotten some pushback on that. But when it comes to like anarcho, capitalist Christians, where they're still stuck in their ideological way, and I'm like, you gotta live in reality. I have a 5-year-old and an 18-month-old, and you've been talking about this for 8 years, but you can't pick it. And the reality is, I have to live in the situation that I'm dealt. Like, you got to play the cards you're dealt. And I'm living in a situation where, as you said, I mean, the other side is so horrendous that I have to pick between, either one side that's obviously tyrannical, horrible, then another side that's a little bit more freedom, or I'm supposed to just not vote and say I'm going to be so ideologically pure that I can't even think about voting for the other side. And I mean, can you really not take a win? Like, imagine there's no new wars and you've saved 500,000 lives. Like, are you telling me that that's preferable to not voting, or that's not preferable to not voting? Like, that whole ideologically, it's like, I'm almost like losing my libertarian, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And let's go to D. D's got the hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah. How y'all doing tonight? Y'all doing pretty good?
Oh yeah.
Can't complain.
I just had a couple of thoughts, like, just going through my mind. I think Trump is set up to, I don't know how to phrase this. I'm afraid of like how Trump is going to look in the economic department. after he takes office. If you think about it, one, all the economic numbers that we've been given for seems like forever as I can remember. Like we'll get one number that comes out, then a week or two later we'll get a revision of it, and it almost never fails. Like there's something going on with like the economic numbers, and like what's going to happen when Trump takes office? Are they going to release numbers that are slanted not in his favor? Are they going to release the actual numbers, or are there's going to be meaningless revisions as we've seen? That's one thing, and the other thing is like another thought that crossed my mind was, as far as like the debt level goes in this country, I think you have to go back and look at how we got here and to begin with. It's awfully easy to put on more debt when you're basically not paying any interest on it. And if you look at like long-term bond rates, they've been falling for good 40 years or so, like a long time. Like you could put on debt and like they're basically we're not paying anything on those. But now, interest rates have gone up. What's it gonna, if they have to issue more debt now, it's gonna cost them a lot more to do it. So I'm just kind of that's where my mind's at. Like, I'm kind of curious to see like how this is going to play out. I mean, if they're going to, at some point with the debt that we have, the chickens are going to come home to roost. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, you can't, keep running the way we're going.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is you sound like a single issue voter with the debt. It's not all about debt. That's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Let's go to James Burnett. I know you had your hand up. Go ahead, James.
How's it going, guys? And everybody from Virginia, fellow Virginian here. I think I think you had asked earlier, maybe like, what everybody thinks is going to be happening on the financial side of things. And the way I look at it is like this: if Trump, and I'm thinking lowest hanging fruit, like what is he going to do?
I can't hear James. Can anybody else?
I hear him just fine.
Okay, I'm going to drop down and come back.
I can't hear him.
I can hear them. I guess they can't hear me.
Yeah, they're going to drop and come back. Go ahead, James.
All right. Good deal. I was just thinking of the lowest hanging fruit, like what has to happen for us to build confidence in the new administration if somehow they win, if Trump pulls this off, which it looks like he might, and I think for me, just the way I look at it is this: if Trump gets elected and nobody goes to jail within the first year, and I'll even give him 2, then I feel like we're going to be just dealing with the same old, nothing really happening, all talk, right? Because he's been making a lot of comments, about, he was illegally.
So basically
targeted.
hypothetical commentary right now. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I want to see some immediate action.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really with you on that, and I feel the same way, especially when it comes to. I mean, I was at the point where I would have almost voted for RFK Jr. just simply because I am so tired of the food in this country and like the pesticides and the things that's going on. He seems deeply, he seems like he really cares about that, and so for me, I want to see quick action on that, and so. I think the fact that one of the best things about what Trump has been talking about is the fact that he's not somebody to admit his faults and talk about where he's made mistakes. But this is, I think maybe this and maybe one other thing, I don't know, maybe somebody can correct me, but this is one of the only things I've seen is he goes, "Hey, I'm not from DC. I didn't know anything. I just, I got this person recommended, vetted." And he basically admitted he didn't drain the swamp. But now I think he's claiming he learned from his mistakes. And I think that's possibly the best argument that we have. If there's one thing to admit to that you messed up on, I think that's it.
Now we got Stuart.
Well, I mean, he has RFK on the team right now. So I don't know what else you would expect from an independent voter. What else would you expect or get? Or, I mean, what?
Is Stuart here with us? I saw Stuart join, but I haven't heard from him. Stuart, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you think, man?
Oh, I mean, just based on the kind of few comments that I've heard so far, the guy who was just speaking was right that, Trump has kind of admitted a few mistakes that he made. One was, having to trust too many unloyal people when he was first staffing. So I think that's something that will be different this time. And it was one of my main disappointments last time is that he just kept picking the wrong people. And as far as like the economic stuff goes, I posted it in our little group. Listened to an interesting podcast the other day with Pete Quinones and a guy named Stormy Waters, where they kind of broke down what one of Trump's top economic guys has been saying and how, through the use of tariffs and onshoring all of our production, and then the use of maybe even being able to get rid of the income tax, how that could propel us into kind of a new gilded age, like what we saw during parts of the 1800s when we became the wealthiest country in the world and amassed more wealth in 100 years than every other nation had ever amassed, in the history of the world. So look, if he could get through and they're not able to steal this somehow, because we know they're going to cheat some. It's just a question enough to steal it. So we'll see. But I honestly, I think with the alliance with RFK Jr., bringing Tulsi Gabbard in, and kind of joining forces with a lot of libertarian ideas, Ron Paul seems to be on board with things. I've been impressed, and I've been very skeptical of Elon Musk, but I was really impressed with his recent Rogan interview. I think things look good. Now, look, it's going to be a tough fight because these people are criminals of the highest order that have been, ruling over us. And to actually get rid of them is going to be a tall task. But if he could do it, I think we're going to end up in a pretty good place. So.
Yeah, that's I don't disagree with anything there. I'd like to add right now, Trump it's announced he's won North Carolina, so that's another big one.
Yeah, I think I think it's looking good for him so far. It's just a question of are they going to be able to pull any of these shenanigans in a few of these states like they did last time? And I mean, honestly, it's looking like it's going to be out of their reach to do it. So I think that's good news. And to speak on what one of the other guys was saying earlier with the prosecutions and throwing people in jail, I think that has to happen this time. You can't let these people get away with what they've done without any sort of punishment. Now, maybe you set up a thing like they did in South Africa, where you set up, a month-long reciprocity period, where if anybody who was involved in any of this criminality wants to come forward and admit to everything they did, then maybe, you get a pass and get to go live on an island somewhere and never come back here again. But otherwise, these people have to be prosecuted. And it needs to be done legally too. And I think that a lot of them, especially all these government officials, you're probably going to have to do like military tribunals or something, because I don't think you can put them through the regular court system. And I don't think that's how you go after people for treason anyway. So because a lot of these politicians and stuff they've committed treason. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes about doing that, or if he even does. And I think that'll be one of the key indicators of how serious he really is about all this, is if he does go after these people in that way. So,
hey, Stuart.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to pick your brain. The other thing with the people getting prosecuted is also pardoning the people that are in prison for January 6th. I actually know a couple of people that are on their way to prison for that. I know their stories firsthand, and it's pretty gross, with all the evidence, video evidence. There's like two particular judges in DC that are just like, we don't care what the evidence looks like. You're going to jail. Tough crap. And I think that's another big one for me. Like, And I'm not saying necessarily that every single person was innocent, because if you hear the full story, there were actually two groups there, one causing trouble and the other wasn't, essentially. But still, there has to be a little bit more. Some of those people were grossly wrongly accused. So anyway, just wanted to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think he can do a blanket pardon for exactly the reason that you said, because there were some people that did do some illegal things that day. So, but
The Fed,
there's more than enough video evidence out there, and evidence that we haven't been able to see. But even the video that we have got, there have been some brilliant people online that have pieced together all these different angles and cell phone videos and linked up the timestamps, and we have a pretty good picture of who the real instigators and criminals were that day. And so but he has access to even more information than we do with that. So it should be pretty easy for him and his team to figure out, who are the guys like Orion Samsel, or some of the other more famous J6ers at this point that really did nothing wrong and were only trying to save Roseanne Borland's life that day, but instead have been rotting in a cell for almost 4 years now. So yeah, I think that's another thing that he has to rectify, is the whole January 6th thing. And going along with that, you got to out who these provocateurs were and who was working for different parts of the federal government that day. Because in my opinion, there were hundreds and hundreds of agent provocateurs, if you will, that were more than likely employed or at least contracted with the FBI or the CIA, or whatever three-letter agency you want to call and find. So
yeah. How exactly does Ray Epps just get a slap on the wrist and is told to go home when he's on video and with witnesses saying he was telling people to go in there and cause trouble? But then you have somebody like Owen Schroyer, who had a permit to be there, who never went into the Capitol, and they came back and threw him in jail over text messages. I mean, what kind of a banana
Well,
republic
look at Nick
bullshit is that?
Fuentes. Nick Fuentes stood there with a bullhorn saying we're going into the Capitol, and he never got anything out of it, not even charges or a court case.
well, that's because he's a Fed. I mean, he got co-opted by the Feds several years ago. And so it's clear. I mean, yeah, same with Baked Alaska, who was in Pelosi's office and never did any jail time for January 6th. He did some jail time for some other stuff, but not for January 6th. So that, and fortunately, in kind of the conservative kind of right wing alternative media movement, I think there's actually quite a few guys that are working. Yeah, or at least maybe they're not full on feds, but they've done illegal things and the feds are running on that. So that's the story with Nick Fuentes. His whole operation is just a giant honey pot. So
Real quick, I just want to say Tim Pool just posted that Trump already has 88 million votes. I believe that surpasses him for the previous two elections, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, by 15 million, he got 74 last time.
Yeah, that's absurd. I want to go to D, and then we'll let the Virginia Rattlesnake here speak real quick, and I want to get back to Stuart and pick his brain about something real quick. So y'all go ahead and ask your questions, and I'm gonna get back to Stuart. I want to ask him something.
Perfect.
I think Rattlesnake has had a hand up for a while. If you want to go ahead.
Appreciate it. I've probably been following the group, I guess, at least the Instagram group, since between 2016 and 2020. But I guess until they tried taking them out back in Butler, I was thinking just sitting out the election. So it was pretty much a spite vote at that time. But as time goes on, it just seemed like the Democrat Party just kept getting worse and worse. Just like they're like the worst of the Republican Party's ever been, and the worst the Democrat Party's ever been. And I guess it kind of helps with all the endorsees and with Tulsi and RFK and whatnot. It's helped as well. But I think he's really dropped the ball with this campaign, because I'd really be nailing how much Democrats embrace lockdowns, embrace mandates. He doesn't do that, which makes me kind of suspicious. So I'm kind of half and half. That's definitely makes me half and half on trusting Trump. Also, the fact that he doesn't really, backed all the injustices, and that he back in January 6th that he actually called for the National Guard. I think he did mentioned that a time or two, but that's not as much as he should have. So it still kind of has me kind of suspicious of Trump, and that it could possibly he be part of it, like the part of the theater in the big picture. But yeah.
Go ahead, D.
Yeah, you were talking about, I guess you could say, what Trump's going to do when he gets in office, as far as like, I think he's going to go completely, I can see it going two ways. I think there's a lot of FBI agents are probably going to be stripped of any kind of clearances that they may have. At the very least, they'll probably be stripped and, let them find a job somewhere else. I do think he'll make an example out of somebody. He will go. Come on, I just got a feeling he's going to go completely scorched earth and make an example out of somebody out of this. I've got just an off-topic side. I have a friend that was a content creator, and he went to January 6th just to record. He just wanted to record the event, be like a news, just report on the news on what he's been seeing. And after that, he went back. He got a knock on his door, and it was the IRS coming and knocking and having a conversation with him. He hasn't made any content since. He hadn't really told me why, but I think you kind of get the feeling from there. But I don't know. Either he's going to go scorched earth on every single 3-letter agency, or he's going to be nice to a lot of them, and then just make an example out of one or two. I don't know how this is going to go down. I think it's going to get absolutely crazy. Probably that's my personal opinion.
So on the agencies, RFK Jr.'s all in for like splintering them. Trump has said that, he needs to make them strong again. And as a business owner, there is something to be said about like employees. Do I want to bring a new employee in, or do I want to work with this employee and make them better? Now, I'm on Trump's side on it, as in let's make them better and stronger. Let's give them tools to work with. Let's restructure. But Musk was talking about on Rogan. He's like, we're making more than 2 government agencies a year. There's like 451 government agencies right now, and he wants to eliminate a lot of them. So, but I think RFK is going to come in and he's going to want to splinter, and Trump's going to be like, well, let's limit this and let's regulate it, and let's not totally destroy the FBI and CIA, but let's have oversight of them.
I think I forget what podcast I was listening to, and I think they mentioned like on the table was, instead of like sending a lot of them to jail or something like that, I think there's something more like just stripping them of any kind of clearances that they may have so they can't work for the government.
Oh, I'd say the employees, you got to lock them up. You have to make an example out of a tyrannical government employee. But as for the agency itself, I think the restructuring, bringing new people in and setting them up to where they cannot run amok and be tyrannical again is the key.
Yeah.
But if it was me, dude, if they're employees and they're going against the Constitution, lock them the fuck away and burn it down.
Yeah. I think a very good possibility, like he might be lenient on them, but there's going to be some high level somewhere in those agencies that he'll make an example out of, just so that nobody ever does it again. So I have no idea. I'm just thinking it's going to be absolutely crazy.
I don't think he has a choice. I think at this point in time, his base is so riled up, and they're expecting a little bit of vengeance, maybe a reckoning, considering what they have put his family through, what his supporters through. I don't see any other way. I don't see any other path than going full tilt boogie, and not only make an example. I mean, we can't have one of these show trials where like during the 2016 election, we had all these
people falsifying documents, and just one little lawyer down the line, 15th in line, ends up, getting stripped of something and serving, 30 days. We can't have that. Like Stuart mentioned, we have to have something to the degree of military tribunals. It has to be so hard, and it has to be so ridiculously strong that nobody will ever dare cross the Constitution again. Like, that's not only make an example out of people, you have to make them think twice before they ever cross the Constitution again. It's got to be the absolute hammer. Otherwise, we're going to be right back to where we started 4 years from now, maybe even sooner than that. Because, even with control in 2016, we all saw what happened. So unless there is massive examples being made, I don't think anything changes.
I think that's, in a way, like, I see that as like the only way that it's going to go down, the way it has to happen. But at the same time, I'm thinking about back in my head, like Washington, D.C., how it works. I'm like, I'm afraid of, like, how far are we going to go from here? Is it just going to keep escalating every single time there's somebody new coming into office? Because there's going to be payback, right? I mean, that's the way Washington kind of works. And I'm just afraid, like, just where I'm at, I'm like, are we just going to, is the divide in this country going to keep growing wider and wider and wider? And like, it keeps getting worse, like, every time? Or is there going to be a point where it's like we start coming back to the middle? And
Guy, real quick, I just
No,
want to say thanks for having me, Chip. I appreciate it. It's almost 3 a.m. here in London, so I got to take off. But it's a pleasure speaking with you guys, and hopefully wake up to some good news in the morning. But thanks again, everyone.
Thanks for being here, Gary.
Have a good night, Gary. Good talking to you.
Take care.
So,
I have a thought on that.
well, hey, guys, listen, I got to jump out really quick, too. I have a couple of meetings in India that I got to jump on Zoom calls for, but I'll be right back.
Sounds good, brother.
Go ahead, Stuart.
I was just going to respond to what James was saying there, and that I understand the kind of fear of the tit for tat, but I think one of the things that has to go along with, prosecuting these high crimes and treason is there also has to be an exposing of the media in that same, sweep of things. And if we can break through the utter propaganda that has been spewed out to, the country and the citizens, and have them start, and look at how far we've come since 2020 with people figuring out that we've been nothing but lied to about everything from the mainstream media. So if we could kind of hyper accelerate that and start to get, these people that are currently voting left to understand that everything they've been told is a lie, and that, we don't need you to come all the way over to our side, but understand that you've been lied to about all of this. If you can kind of complete that and break that cycle, then the the momentum for an attack back, as far as prosecuting the crimes that have been committed, I think goes away. Because that's where this all stems from. It stems from this brainwashing of the public in thinking that, he was in bed with the Russians during the 2016 campaign, or that, he was doing all these things that he was never doing. And that's it. They rely on support from the people to be able to justify them going back after him again, let's say in 2028, if he gets in and he's able to prosecute these people. If you can also then, re-educate the public on that side that, hey, you've been lied to, and these things just weren't true, I think that takes a lot of momentum out of their sails. So,
do you think the Republicans are going to support him if this kind of an event were to occur where he kind of goes on, as someone else said, lack of better term, scorched earth here, where he needs to put some key people in jail? Do people here in this chat room really think that the Republicans are going to go along? Because it's not going to be able to be Trump alone. Like himself by himself can't go and say, hey, go raid this person's house, have them arrested, yada, yada, yada. There's going to be a process to it, which is going to include has to include Republican support, meaning that's just kind of the way things work. But here's the problem. The Republican Party is, in my view, equally as corrupt as the Democratic Party. Like, I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC go at it and then see them having tea together 2 hours later. So it's a uniparty system, and it's a big problem, you know. And Rattlesnake, I know you're from Virginia. You know, you probably know who Nick Freitas is, right? I would say probably somebody that most conservatives would look up to. He's a pretty decent Republican, right? Well, guess what? He voted to erase the local election here where I live in Augusta County. He voted for that. And so we had a local election on a specific issue, and he completely voted against that, as well as all but 2 Republicans. So unless we start really getting rid of the people that appear good but actually are doing wrong, then I don't think Trump's going to really get anywhere. You know, he can't do a lot of the things he wants to do without the support of the Republicans. And when most of them are corrupt, how is this really going to pan out?
Yeah, I mean, that you're exactly right. I mean, look, it's a uniparty. You know, Mitch McConnell is just as guilty as Chuck Schumer. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a clown, in my opinion. I think that, and I've said this for a long time, there's maybe 15 to 20 actual real members of Congress who I think could probably be trusted and are honest, you know. And so, but look, I think what you have to do is you just kind of have to you got to go after the big fish first, and then work your way through. I don't know. It's tough because this is why I harp on our election system so much, because with a completely broken and rigged election system, look, Trump may end up getting in, but how many down ballot races is the uniparty stealing in this election? We'll probably never know. So until we get back to paper ballots, hand counted at the precinct level, we're never going to get enough real American kind of constitutionalist patriots into office. We can't even get them past the primary system because it's completely rigged against them. So look, I mean, this country's in a real mess, and anybody who thinks that just getting Trump back into office is going to fix all this is sadly mistaken. What I've said for a while is that he gives us a beachhead. He gives us a bit of calm from going on this kind of communist freight train to absolute destruction. And he gives us 4 years to reorganize and to start laying the groundwork to fix all these major problems that are going to take anywhere from 10 to 30 years to fix. So,
yeah, I mean, people need to understand that communists have been laying the groundwork since the 30s. I mean, this has been going on for almost a century now. It's not going to be flipped overnight. People need to be patient. People have to be patient at this point in time, but they also deserve a little bit, you know, for what we put up with. And it won't take an awful lot. You know, you're going to make an example of a handful of people really will go a long way into putting a little bit of sanity and, whatnot back into people. I wanted to real quick, hey, ladies, I wanted real quick to pick Stuart's brain on something. I've been dying to kind of just shift the conversation for just a minute. Western North Carolina, I know we've had a lot of spaces talking about what's been going on, about relief efforts, all this kind of stuff. One thing we haven't really touched on is the potential, the possibility that this was weather manipulation, that something wild was going on in North Carolina, that this was purposely designed to go in for whatever reason. And I just kind of want to find out what you've researched, what you found out about that whole matter.
Well, I mean, just kind of start from a 30,000-foot view. It's my belief, and from everything that I've looked at, and it is that the powers that be are capable of fully creating weather patterns and manipulating them and getting them to do what they want. And I believe that it's been demonstrated by people like Dane Whittington from Geoengineering Watch that they supercharged that storm and they steered it with the NEXRAD radar system and then had it just sit over North Carolina. It dumped, I think it was something like 3 trillion gallons of rain over the 2 to 3 days that it sat there. And I think, and look, at the same time that went on, you had a hurricane that wasn't even listed as a hurricane come in and hit Acapulco and then go back out into the ocean, recharge, and come back in and hit Acapulco again. And that's not even a full year after what was a tropical storm and then turned into a Category 5 hurricane hit Acapulco less than a year ago. I think it's clear they're manipulating these things. They can create rain whenever they want to. They can steer these storms in several different ways. That's what part of the chemtrailing is about, is that they get these metals and chemicals up in the air, and then through the HARP system and radio frequencies, they're able to activate them and get them to manipulate with water vapor and other things to create different types of storms. So that I fully believe that was done completely on purpose. Just like with a lot of these fires that have happened over the past 5 to 7 years. I mean, look at the Maui fires. I think there's just too much evidence showing that they were, started more than likely by some sort of a high-tech weapon. And just the way that they burn and the severity and the quickness in which all these things happen. When you had those fires in Canada a year or two ago, you could watch on the radar where over hundreds and hundreds of miles of space where there were, I think it was something like 15 or 17 fires all started at exactly the same time. So there's something going on. Can they fully manufacture weather? I'm not sure. There was a guy who had a YouTube channel 5 or 6 years ago. He was called Weather Wars, and it was done in a robot voice, but he was showing that they are actually like fully creating weather patterns. So I'd say it's probably capable. And I definitely think that the North Carolina flooding was done on purpose. And I think that a lot of these other strange and severe weather events are, at the very least, being enhanced, if not fully created.
What do you think the purpose of it in North Carolina was? And the reason I just asked this is I've seen a few videos or whatnot, and people had talked about that tornadoes had actually formed on the side of mountains. And I was just curious that,
That's true. I was there and I saw one. So firsthand.
Yeah, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I know that tornadoes can come in mountainous areas, but the places they were showing, I mean, it's just in a deep valley, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. So I was kind of just curious the purpose and what you thought maybe the reasoning would be behind water manipulation in North Carolina. I mean, is it the quartz mines? Is it the lithium, or is it some other nefarious reason?
I would say that considering that quartz that comes from there is the only quartz that they can use in semiconductors or something, and there is an absolute giant deposit there and apparently they have been trying to buy people out and move them out of that area for 10-15 years now, because look, the high-tech kind of 15-minute city Internet of Things world that they want us all to be living in requires those two things to make most of those products. And look, it's also
Stuart, I'm going to jump in here and talk about Loudoun County in Virginia, which is now looking to go for Trump, which has not gone to a Republican since, I think I just heard, 1988.
That's crazy. I lived in Loudoun for a while, and that is a deep blue area. That is, there's all sorts of senators, congressmen that live in Loudon. It's the home of lots of huge, giant businesses. I mean, it's where the Washington Redskins are. It's a definitely a liberal blue area. So that's huge.
That's wild. I never expected to see that.
That's insanity.
Yeah, that's crazy that he's winning sections of Northern Virginia. But honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I think that if you had a free and fair election, and we'll go back to the weather stuff in a second, if you had a free and fair election, he would win 75% of the vote, just based on like my own going out in public and talking to people and everything else. I mean, it's 7 out of 10 people that think the way that we think. They just want to be left alone. They want to have a chance to succeed, and he's the guy that provides that. So
There's a lot of secret Trump supporters out there.
yeah. I mean, look, they've created the conditions for it. I mean, I was listening to Rich Barris, who's a pollster, last night, and he said that the first time ever when they were calling and doing polling, he said a Republican would pick up the phone and one of the first things they'd say is this being recorded? Is there any way that, is the FBI going to be getting any of this information, because we're scared of, being on a list that we're, saying that we're voting for Trump. So they've created these conditions where people are afraid. I mean, look at what they've done to the J6ers. They're throwing grandmothers in jail for praying at the Capitol. So they've tried to extinguish the flame of freedom in this country, and luckily enough people are deciding that we got to keep it alive. So
I mean, Chip, explain this to me. If they're projecting him to win Loudoun County and he won Chesapeake, then why have they already called it for Kamala?
Well, the stations that I'm watching haven't called it for Kamala yet. It's still wide open. This is going to be a photo finish in Virginia. It really is.
The Virginia state election website shows Kamala winning by 0.14%. So it's not over in Virginia yet.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the wire here. And guess what? If you were able to get rid of their cheating, I think he'd win Virginia easily. So
I think he'd win a lot of places easily. I think if we went back to a system without machines, where you walked in with a paper vote, you wrote the candidate's name down, and you dropped it in a box, and you had 3 people counting, then I honestly think Trump wins every single state in a bloodbath landslide. I don't see how we continue to go on with this charade of these machines. Get rid of them. They're antiquated. We don't need them. Let's go back to the old ways, or we know 100% it's going to be legit. And if you don't want to go back to the old ways where it's 100% legit, then you obviously have something to hide, and it's that simple.
Yep. I voted out at Henry Elementary today, and I talked to every one of the poll workers that were there, and every single one of them said, yeah, we got to get rid of these machines. And Virginia is a Dominion state, and we know that these Dominion machines are, they're as easy to hack as having a thumb drive with some code on it that you stick in, and there's no trace that you were even there, and the thumb drive can be in the machine for less than a minute, and it can flip whatever you've programmed it to do, it'll do, and show no trace that you were ever there. So it's really, we got to get rid of them, and I think it's like Dominion, and then ES&S, and then there's one other major company in the United States that does all of these election machines. I think that has to be one of the number one things that the grassroots continues on with this next 4 years is getting rid of these machines. So, and then we'll actually be able to run people like, we'll nominate Billy to run for a House seat here in Virginia, and he'll actually win.
Can you win, Riddle?
Well, I think Trump, I will put him at 226.
back to the weather manipulation stuff. Yeah, I think it's 100% possible. I think they are doing. I mean, we've had different, whistleblowers and other things come out and talk about, how they can create earthquakes. They can do all. And in fact, I mean, it's been declassified in, from our own government that there was a plan. I believe it was in like the 1950s or 1960s to set off earthquakes at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and flood China with the earthquakes, pushing the ocean in on China. So even as long ago as that, they were talking about being able to do those sorts of things. So just imagine, 60, 70 years later, where they're at technologically to be able to execute these sort of things.
Well, I mean, I know that a few years ago, maybe not even, probably more than 5, it would be kind of crazy to even mention stuff like that, and not because it hasn't already been in the news. It's just because it hasn't been mainstream. This, you can go back and read articles and see videos dating back 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 that talk about this sort of thing, but it just wasn't anything mainstream. But now we've gotten to the point where people question everything, and rightfully so. I mean, what has the government done that makes us say, I really trust that? I mean, nothing. So, even 5 years ago, it might be wild to even consider having this talk. But, this past summer, or, back in the late spring, when you see a Middle Eastern city that gets a quarter inch of rain a year flooding, and they openly admit that it was cloud seeding that did it, and they screwed up, and was it Dubai, Qatar, whatever one it was, had 2 or 3 feet of water running through the streets. Well, then you have to really start asking questions. It's like, how does a Cat 5 hurricane get this far inland and just dump and stop? And I mean, there's other factors too. A lot of things. It rained for 4 or 5 days in Western North Carolina before the hurricane came. So that softened the ground and laid the groundwork for all the mudslides. And I don't really know, the ins and outs of the dams on those rivers, but a lot of people talk about, well, they let the dams go, and that's how the water got so high. And I don't know.
So when I was in Tennessee searching for my brother while the storm was leaving Tennessee. And I had a radio with me and the person I was with, and we were listening to an emergency EMS channel for the dam upstream from us. I don't recall the name of the river. And they were giving out warnings. We were actually downstream of the dam while they were giving out warnings that the dam appeared to be in the starts of failure, and that's because of the buildup on the other side of trees and debris that were blocking some of the spillways. And so, there's a lot of truth behind some of those dams did not fail. I don't know if any of them technically failed, but they had to go in and remove the debris that was causing the damage to those spillways, which ultimately could have caused those dams ultimately to blow out, or whatever you want to call it. And let me tell you what, it's a pretty eerie feeling hearing that and being downriver. But the question I have, just to take this a step further, is why. So somebody was talking about the quartz crystal mine. So once I found my family in North Carolina, I went straight to in Tennessee. A couple of days later, I went to North Carolina, and I was with an owner of one of those quartz mines. Actually, I was on their compound, and this dude was handing out $500 to people that needed it because most places were only taking cash. Nobody had credit cards and stuff like that. There's a lot of money in those quartz mines. It's so much so, this is how crazy it was in North Carolina. It's so much so that, and I don't know, Appalachia, you're a veteran, so you'll know what I'm talking about. They were landing Chinooks in this dude's backyard, and they were actually dehoisting 2 squads of 20th Group behind this guy's house. And this place was a fully guarded compound of one of the owners of this quartz company. It was bizarre. So the question I have is how can our military why was the response so bad? Yet all these civilians were doing all the work and still are, essentially. Dams aside, the fact of the matter is what I learned is during an actual crisis, the people are going to end up finding their inner strength to do something about it, when it really comes down to it. Anyway, I'm in a very talkative, long-winded, tired. So just tell me to be quiet, and I'll
No, you're fine. No, I think that, look, FEMA's a joke and always has been a joke, but it reached new levels of incompetence during this disaster here in Appalachia. I think part of it is their DEI mission statement that they are there to help people of color and illegals before they help anyone else. I mean, it says it on the front page of their website. And I think the other thing is, and not to be all kind of white nationalist about it, but it's rural white people that this happened to, and they were at the bottom of their list of caring about. And in fact, they despise us and hate us because we are what built this country, and what made it great was the blood, sweat, and tears of the people from Appalachia. So I think it's a combination of things. I also think that I think it's a testament to the people of this region that we responded better than even FEMA on their best day could have responded to helping people here. I mean, you go watch the videos of, the people on their side-by-sides and their four-wheelers driving through creek beds and, taking pack mules up mountains to help people. FEMA would have never done that. FEMA, even at their best, FEMA wasn't going to be doing that sort of thing. So, I think that this taught a valuable lesson, and I also think that this is a lesson for our future, that we don't need the federal government. We don't need them for much of anything. And in fact, they just get in the way of us doing the things that we need to be able to do. I mean,
they were actually trying to prevent us from doing a rope crossing across a river.
Yeah,
to get to several families. They were literally getting in the way. This fat, blonde, white piece of trash person who could barely even walk was telling us that we can't cross a river to go help families. That's how bad it was.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't really listen to that. But that's the thing, Stuart, is you're absolutely right. And that's like the message I try to tell people is it was proof that at the end of the day, and here's the cool thing, Stuart, right? I am not even from North Carolina. I was from Virginia. All these people from all around. I mean, it was amazing to see neighboring states helping neighboring states. I met people from all over the place. I actually was able to get some information from some people on X on what was going on, and radio frequencies, things like that. It's freaking bizarre. And so, even if Kamala did win, worst case scenario, I think they're in for a rude awakening either way, right? And here's the other thing. Remember, Stuart, back in 2020 with the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution was going around?
Yeah.
That's more proof in the pudding that us Virginians, they tried to they were banning every semi-automatic firearm is essentially what they were trying to do. And we said, oh, hell no. I think it was virtually almost every county, including in some of the blue areas, passed the Second Amendment resolution saying, yeah, that's not happening. So I think we don't give ourselves, I mean, when I say ourselves, like the people, enough credit, honestly. I mean, right now, I don't even want to say the words because I'll probably have the FBI showing up. But the government should be afraid of the people, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They really should be a lot more afraid. When I saw the capabilities of regular old folk in North Carolina just kicking ass, I was like, holy crap, I'd be scared. If I was a do-wronger government politician and I saw, I didn't see, it was not very often that I did not see somebody carrying an AR-15 with multiple magazines, a sidearm, a medical bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. everybody was armed in North Carolina, just about, at least early on in the first few days when it was really bad. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that,
anyway.
that was the way it was originally intended, that they should be scared of us, not the other way around. And I think that, and just imagine this, since we are on election night, let's say that Trump does get in, and let's say that he does repeal the federal income tax. And then that shows that, and he lowers other taxes. And we have less of a tax burden on us to be able to then even be more self-sufficient in our own communities. And I think that this disaster has just shown, our region, and hopefully, parts of the rest of the country, that we don't need them. Shrink the federal government by 90%. We don't need them. We can take care of ourselves for the most part. It's nice to have it there if there is, something that we can't do. But look, it's not like the federal government flew in there and dropped off, hundreds, if not thousands, of Starlink systems so that people could get back online and start communicating again. That was done by a private citizen, So I think that, it's horrendous what happened. My heart hurts every day for the thousands and thousands of people that were lost and the thousands affected by this. But it has proven and shown that we don't need them. We can do without this over-expanding, bureaucracy that is just rotten to the core with dead weight. And in fact, openly states that they would like to see most of us go away anyways. So,
when you talk about FEMA and the government getting in people's way and stuff, a lot of people will come in and say, oh, they weren't doing that and this and this. I mean, I remember watching a story about a guy who had his entire business wiped away in Irwin, Tennessee, all his equipment, all of his heavy equipment, dump trucks and bulldozers, excavators, all this kind of stuff. And he only had a couple left that were on a job site somewhere that were salvaged. So despite losing his entire business and knowing good and well he's probably not going to be able to rebuild, he gets in his, whatever equipment he's got left, and he starts trying to clear roads. And this is where the line through a mission comes in. No, FEMA wasn't necessarily going in there and blocking him and doing it. What they were doing is telling the Tennessee Department of Transportation, if you let this man go in here and clear the roads, we're going to see to it that you don't get funding in the future. And that's what it's all about. It's a carrot and a stick. So they don't have to directly stop anybody. They'll just go in there and tell the state and local governments, you go stop these people. You look like the bad guy, or we won't give you the funding. And see, in my opinion, that's one of those moments where the rubber meets the road, to say it without having somebody come knocking on my door tomorrow. That's one of those moments where somebody needs to make an example out of without having to go through the court system. You know what I mean? Some of those state officials should have just looked at them and did what needed to be done. But instead, we get to this merry-go-round of bullshit to where the carrot and the stick prevents people from going and actually saving lives. And when it gets to this point in time, it's just like war. When that first bullet goes by your head, politics and all that bullshit go right out the window. When there's people that needs to be saved, the bureaucracy needs to get out of the way, and they just don't know how to do it. They're so power hungry that they think their little, FEMA badge is that important that they would prevent people from saving lives just so they could be the ones to stand there and make the decisions. Then, they're always going to drag their ass, and people died because of it.
Yeah, you're right, Billy. They were doing that, but they were also directly stopping people from helping. I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of videos of testimony of people who were bringing goods in that were having the goods either confiscated, or they were having to turn around and go the other way and not being able to help. There was a small airport outside of, I forget exactly where it was, but they were flying 20 to 25 flights a day from somewhere in South Carolina into the Western North Carolina area to drop off supplies. And FEMA found out about this, flew into the airport and parked 10 helicopters on the runway so they couldn't take off. Now, these guys down there, said, fuck FEMA, and started taking off from the grass beside the runways. but still, I mean, they were directly trying to prevent people from helping. What about the Cajun Navy? Or yeah, it's the Cajun Navy that had the sites set up in that parking lot, and that all blacked out helicopter with people in ski masks flies down and destroys their setup where they were collecting and distributing goods. I mean, this was an act of all out war against the people, in my opinion, and should not be forgotten by anybody. Because I've said it for a while that, look, they hate us. They want us not here anymore. And I was just happy to see how many people just, stuck their middle finger up at them and said, screw you, and eventually they kind of backed off. So it was a testament to the strength of the people around here.
Go ahead there, Rattlesnake. We'll get to you, and then we're probably going to close it up here after that.
I guess I'd just like to add on to the they need us more than we need them point. And I just wonder how much of a chokehold it would be if enough of us went exempt with the federal and state income tax, well, mainly federal income tax, because, I mean, it wasn't even, federal income tax wasn't even supposed to be permanent. I mean, that and the Federal Reserve both started in 1913.
Oh, I agree. I think that's what pisses them off the most about this whole thing in North Carolina is that they've been proved that we don't need them and they're not necessary, and we can do more as civilians. We don't need them. You don't need. I just wish somebody would explain to me what's the necessity of FEMA coming in there and organizing things and telling people what needs to be done when they don't know the lay of the land. They don't know where the hollers are. They don't know how to get the people. They don't know where back roads are at. They are completely useless, and I think that's what pisses them off. And at this point in time, be gone with it. Like, why are we spending our money? Why are we having our tax dollars taken, to support this useless organization? I hope that's the first thing Trump does when he comes in and completely just axes FEMA. So you know what? That money's going to go back to the states. They know how to handle their emergencies better than anybody. I mean, look no further than snow. If it snows in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, you can get a foot of snow. You go down the interstates, it's about as clear as can possibly be. You ain't got no trouble at all. Why? They're used to it. They know how to mitigate. Once you start getting down into Virginia and maybe North Carolina, maybe not so much in the mountains, but closer to the center part of the state, it's complete and total chaos. Why? Because there's not nearly as many snow plows. There's not nearly as much salt. The back roads, they just don't have time to get to them. And even the interstates, they just don't have the manpower to do it. It's all about the state's necessities, and each state knows how to operate the best. So get rid of FEMA, throw them out the door, and let's keep our own money moving forward. But, I'm just kind of Chip. I don't know if you want, we're going to sign off here. I've been looking around before we do, and Bitcoin has just reached an all-time high.
And that's gonna, if Trump wins, that is, anybody who has Bitcoin, Ethereum, their crypto is gonna explode tonight.
He's looking at, I think it's up to an 80% chance he wins. I'm looking at 242 to 108 electoral college. I mean, is there any path to us waking up in the morning and Donald Trump not being declared the winner?
Well, we've all seen what's happened, in past election. I think that's why going into this, we've all been kind of holding our breath. But people that I absolutely trust on this, who were saying going into this that they didn't know where it would go, are now saying they think Trump is going to win it. That's their prediction, and so I'm going to lean that way too. But man, it's going to be hard not to stay up all night and watch this shit.
Well, the telltale sign will be if they close everything down for the night and shut everything down, and then it all starts back up again. So if like what they did last time was, okay, we're shutting everything down, we're shutting the machines down, and then at 3 a.m. everything started back up again, and then all of a sudden Biden had that straight line that went up, and then he was ahead from then on out. So as long as something like that doesn't happen, that means they didn't activate the machine cheat. Now, look, I think we'll see if they do it, but I think he's too far ahead.
Yeah, and I think if you'll look, I've been my brother-in-law. He was actually in the Secret Service for a period, and he's a big political junkie. He said she is following the exact same path as Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College. And if you look at Hillary's electoral map, it's identical to what Harris has so far, and with what the projections are. So it looks like she's gonna suffer the exact same fate Hillary did, at least at this point.
Well, Donald Trump's going to go down in history as the first president to defeat two of possible first female presidents. So I guess they'll call him a misogynist for that.
That makes me happy.
I'm still, I don't know. I'm not going to go there. It's like,
You guys think there's going to be any kind of, I know we keep hearing about like election violence and post-election chaos. I mean, I know you're
There's
trying
going
to
to be chaos no matter who wins.
Yeah, I wanted to see what you all thought before you close this thing out about that.
There's no doubt that's going to happen. There's no doubt.
We're talking big cities, probably. I mean, basically like George Floyd days, right? I mean, most likely.
I think, they're going to activate the goons. They are going to try to create as much social unrest as possible between now and January the 6th to prevent certification for some reason. Look, Jamie Raskin Jamie Raskin has already been out there signaling this, and in fact, he already has a conference set up for November the 17th for dealing with the election and all the violence that is going to be taking place. They've been signaling this in the mainstream media for several months now, that this is the course that they're going to take. So, I mean, get ready. It's going to be a crazy next 70 days. So it's going to be absolutely nuts.
What do you think do you think they'll do anything on, I don't know how else to say this, but on a more official level to prevent this from happening, aside from the calling in the goons, right? Like, are they going to do their own January 6th?
Well, they've already said,
I mean,
or
a real version of January 6th, should I say?
Well, some have already said they won't certify the election, so we'll see what happens in January when that time comes. But they've already said it's up to them, even if Donald Trump wins. Like, was it Raskin, I guess? I can't remember who it was, but said that if Donald Trump wins, then it's up to them to invoke whatever amendment they were talking about, the 14th, I believe. And make sure he doesn't.
It's Article 3 of the 14th Amendment. And look, Trump still has his sentencing coming up later this month, I believe, on the 20th or the 22nd. One of the things they could do is they could sentence him to jail and try to send him there that day. So, I mean,
would Vance become president if that happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we're in for, unprecedented things are going to happen over the next 70 to 80 days, and it's just a question of how far they're going to push things. So, I can't say one way or the other what they're going to do. I mean, maybe the judge will be so scared by the fact that he is president that he'll be too, even if Raskin and other, these deep staters are pressuring him to do that, maybe he'll be too scared to do it because he'll be afraid Trump will come after him once he's actually sworn into office. So, because I mean, that judge up there is crooked as the day is long. I mean, that guy's a criminal. So it'll be interesting because they've got several avenues, especially with these phony ass felony convictions, because that's what they're going to try to use the 14th Amendment to say he's not fit to be president. So it'll be interesting, and I think with all the civil unrest and just they're going to try to create so much chaos, and they're going to try to get the majority of the population to capitulate and say, yeah, we just can't have this happen. Is I think their play. Do I think it'll work? No, but I think that's what they're going to try to do.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Chip, you have any final thoughts?
Trump has Georgia.
Oh wow, yeah, that's. I think if you look at the electoral,
We kind of lost you there for a second, Chip. Would you say?
Just said it's. I think it's just following the map of Hillary's electoral map. So it's going to be interesting to follow tonight. But Appreciate everybody being a part of it, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Hey, Chip. One more thing before we go.
Heck, y'all later.
Just hey, you were at the Trump rally on Sunday, right, Salem?
Yes, yeah, I was there. It was crazy.
Yeah. How electric was it, and how? I mean, could you just kind of feel the energy of how much support and everything the guy has? Or was it kind of like that?
It was no doubt. It was overwhelming. That's why I thought he might be able to pull Virginia out, which that in itself would still be nuts. I don't know if they've called that yet, but yeah, the rally itself was crazy. If there's a chance, I don't know if it'll be the same going forward, but to see him in that setting and just see him how he works those things, it's worth every bit of it. He's a natural at it. I'd even say an icon just to see him do it. And you contrast that with Kamala, and it's like it's a no brainer.
He's
That
complete
was a really
opposite.
cool experience. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was really cool to experience that. And like I say, I would encourage anybody, if you get a chance to do it, just to do it, because it's just a cultural experience. I don't know another way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of put a cap on it, and we could go. I watched the last one last night. I stayed up late and watched it, and apparently that was like his 930th rally since 2015. So I mean,
Oh my God.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in political history. Somebody who had that sort of stamina and that sort of ambition to win the people over.
Well, that's why I say it was an enigma. He's an icon, and I sort of started thinking, is he the most popular person in the history of America? Because he's not only famous, but he's infamous. In a time when like popularity is at itself an all time high. So it's an interesting question.
Well, on that, gentlemen, ladies, I appreciate everybody that joined us here, and hopefully next week we'll be back in the studio and we'll be talking about whatever in the hell takes place between now and then, because God knows it's going to be ridiculous. So appreciate you jumping on here,
That's it.
Stuart. You really add a lot to the conversation. It's always a pleasure. So thank you for jumping on here. And Chip,
Enjoyed it, guys. Absolutely. Y'all take care.
Take care. We'll talk to you later.
Good night.
We drive trucks, we plow fields, we'll work from sun up until it goes back down again. We raise hell on Friday nights. It becomes Sunday morning, you can find us at the Church of Christ. It may sound like a simple life, but the living sure is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. If it can be broken, it can be fixed. We come from busted knuckles and we know how to use a wrench. We raise our kids, we teach them wrong from right. Yeah, and you can bet your ass that they'll never back down from a fight. It may sound like a simple life, but to live it sure is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. Country music, we turn it way up high, and I can sing every word to a country boy can survive. We like our beer, we drink it ice cold. And the stuff we smoke, well, it's gotta be hand rolled. It may sound like a simple life, but it keeps me feeling high. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine.